Hello and welcome to Me and You and Nancy Drew, a podcast in which I, Colleen,
and I, Megan,
are reading through and viewing and playing the different items in the Nancy Drew universe. Today we read the Password to Larkspur Lane. I believe it is the 1966 edition based on the 1933 book. This is the 10th book in the original run of the series. While we're at the top of the episode, I want to say, if you don't normally listen to all of the end credits, you're in the same boat as me. I don't either, but you should this time because we're going to start doing some different types of episodes besides just the classic books. So you'll want to hear what our next couple episodes are going to be.
I know that we've said this in some previous episodes, but I really do feel like the later books that we've read so far have been a lot more dynamic and kind of better written. No shade, Miss Carolyn Keene. I enjoyed this one. There was a lot going on in this one.
She really hit her stride. There were a lot of characters in this that we have not met before, and also, we will not meet most of them again. There's some that show up for just one page. I do want to know if they're in previous versions of previous books, like the 30s version of book 9, and we're supposed to recognize them, or if we are just learning about them from this one interaction that Nancy Drew knows everyone, and everyone knows Nancy Drew, because we knew that. But there are a couple of people that just show up for one page, say, whoa, how's the detective work going, Nancy Drew, and then never show up again. And then there are some that are new to us and then stay around for a little bit, like Effie.
Kind of related to that, for the first few books, we had Helen Corning, and she's back.
She's back. I missed her so much. We have not seen her since the Lilac Inn.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been so long.
And we were seeing her every book for like a good portion of the book. She was Nancy's bosom friend. She was there before we met Bess and George because we meet them in book 5, the Shadow Ranch. And so I was excited to see her. And she had that engagement. We didn't know what was going on with Jim Archer. And then she disappeared and I was worried, but she's back. She's back. She's back. She's back.
Yeah, I was really, really happy and excited to see Helen. And I didn't know she was going to be in the book, but on the very first page, it gives you that first hand-drawn image. Before you even start the story, you see an old man pointing out the window with Nancy at this big circle, and it says, "There's that spooky blue flame again," Mr. Corning gasped. And I was like, Corning? Like Helen Corning? Oh, I miss Helen. And then I was like, wait. Could it be the same Corning? Because, I mean, how many Cornings are there in the River Heights area?
How many could there be? There once was a limerick recap.
You can go first.
A doctor gets shoved in a van. Blue flowers, blue fire, blue fam. 2 mysteries combine. Nancy does just fine and gets 2 presents from all of her fans.
Ooh, I like that.
All right, let's hear yours.
Lots of blue things.
There were so many blue things in this. And I always think of lilacs as purple, or lilacs as someone I know says that incorrectly because they're from Rochester. There were so many blue things. And I feel like we had just got off of a purple flower-related mystery, the Lilac Inn. But this is different because they're blue, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. So mine is very different, but perhaps also similar to some of my previous ones. But I am very proud of it.
All right.
There once was an old lady named Eldridge who went mysteriously missing for a smidge. Nancy uncovered the plot, and of course she got caught, but she was able to send a pigeon.
I was worried because selecting Eldridge to rhyme with is a very strong choice, but smidge is good, and pigeon. There's a lot of pigeon in this book.
There's a lot of pigeon talk in this book, and honestly, I started with Eldridge, and when I realized the pidge could sort of fit with it.
Sort of.
No,
that's perfect. It was a very good limerick.
The pigeons were very important in this book.
So Nancy finds a pigeon because it falls out of the sky almost on her. Not actually, but very close. So she finds it and goes, oh my gosh, this is a carrier pigeon. I immediately know which government agency to send a telegram to so I can get more information about who owns this so I can get it to its owners. I would never have that information offhand, but Nancy does. She just knows stuff. Okay, normally she just knows stuff like this, where she's got this information that I would never have in my life. I know exactly what government agency is involved with pigeons. But then later she sees the word blue next to the word bells in a secret message, and it takes several pages for her to realize blue space bells is a secret reference to the flower bluebells. So we have room in the brain for all this pigeon government agency information, which I didn't even know existed. And the next stops to take when one finds a wounded carrier pigeon. We do not have the ability to make compound words. It reminded me of Sherlock Holmes famously deleting the planets out of his knowledge base because he needed room for like a bunch of types of tobacco ash or whatever.
Okay, what's hilarious about this very beginning of this book, it felt so crazy that a homing pigeon just lands in Nancy Drew's yard. Oh my gosh, how crazy would that be if a homing pigeon just landed in your yard? You'd think, but this has happened to my parents 2 different times.
No.
2 different, and they weren't homing pigeons, they were racing pigeons. This happened 2 different times on 2 different years where a pigeon just showed up in their yard, and it very clearly had the tag, and it stayed there for like 2 days. And my parents had to contact an agency to figure out where the pigeon was from.
Just like Nancy.
Animal control had to come and catch it. And it turns out that there's this annual pigeon racing. If I'm remembering correctly, they're not along the route of this race. Got blown off course, and for some reason was just like in my parents' yard. I am going to find the picture of this homing pigeon just hanging out in my parents' yard, and we're going to post that on Patreon. But then, crazy for it to happen once, but then it happened a second time with a different pigeon like a year later. And this time, they did know exactly who to call. So, this could have happened to Nancy previously. That's why she has this knowledge already. This isn't the first homing pigeon to randomly land in her yard.
This is just the first plot relevant one.
Exactly. The first one was just, an innocent homing pigeon that got blown off course or something. This one's plot relevant. Maybe my parents should have investigated that second one a little bit more before they just called the same agency again and had just picked up and taken away.
That's insane.
Maybe there was a secret message they were supposed to decode. I don't know.
Did they check?
Yeah, they didn't. They didn't.
Oh my gosh. Well, because also I try not to touch birds just kind of as a general rule because I don't have any pet ones. So any birds I encounter are going to, I assume, be feral. It's not touching loose birds. That's insane, actually.
30-second recap.
Ready, set, go.
Nancy is at it again with another double mystery. And this time, a doctor gets kidnapped and she follows him. No, well, she doesn't follow him. She wishes she followed him. And she's like, it's probably nothing. And then he comes back and he tells about this like mystery. And Helen appears and she's like, Nancy, I have a mystery, but I'll tell you about it later. Please come to this place. And so they go to the place. And it's her parents, her grandparents are being like haunted by a blue flame. And then the help goes missing. And Ned and the boys come with Bess and George. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is why I need the timer in front of me.
We should
sorry,
have one.
Guys. I've gotten rusty at the 30-second recaps. It's been a bit since we've recorded.
Detail. Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for her to really pull all these details together.
No, I do this. I've done this before. Okay, I think the correct thing for me to do when we're recording this apart is to also run my own 30-second timer.
Sure.
Because otherwise I have no sense of timing. And I don't know how long I've been talking. I need to be able to see it.
That's
maybe
fair.
next time I'll get more plot in. Okay.
Right.
Are you ready for your 30-second recap?
Yeah, I think I'll actually try your strategy and
okay. All right. Well, I'm also going to time you.
Good. Count me in.
So let me 30 seconds, not 30 minutes.
I think I deserve 30 minutes.
Honestly, there was so much that was in this book. You probably do need it. All right. 30 seconds. 3, 2, 1, go.
So there's a doctor who gets kidnapped. Nancy does not know what's going on with that. She finds out later. Right before that, she's like taking her larkspurs to a flower show, and then the pigeon falls out of the sky, and there's a mysterious plane, which might be related to the pigeon, and it turns out it is. All of this is related to a plot where this a confidence man is kidnapping old people and promising them this like fountain of youth, and then keeping them at a place called Larkspur Lane, and he's trying to get their money. And then there's pigeons, and they get news from the plane. Okay, that's fair. I got some of the big stuff. I got none of the details.
You did. Yeah, well, it's okay. I got lots of details and none of the big stuff.
Listen, we're a good team.
Yeah, we together. But maybe we could fill in some of those extra details. So there's 2 mysteries here. There is the one mystery where the elderly people are being scammed out of their money.
And I don't think they mention any elderly men. I think they've just got a bunch of elderly women in there.
Oh, yeah, no, I think you're totally right.
So this alleged doctor worms his way into their social circles, waits for them to complain about being old, and goes, "Have I got a fountain of youth for you?" Or like an elixir or whatever. "Come to my weird place. It's called Larkspur Lane, and I'll make you young." I don't have proof of this, but it'll work.
And then there's a former lawyer, now convict, who has escaped from prison and is helping him draw up these contracts for these women to sign that gives all their money to them. And all of these contracts are legally binding because he used to be a lawyer. And
this is Adam Thorne, right?
Yes. Yes. So Adam Thorne is bad guy.
He's like more boots on the ground. He follows people around and scares people. I forgot he was an ex-lawyer. And then Adam Thorne is not only doing these legally binding contracts, but he's also displaying mafia goon type behavior. Like he literally waits in the darkness for Nancy to go out in the dark somewhere and tries to scare her and Carson away from the case. But he also does have this legal knowledge to draw up these contracts that are legally binding that get all of these old people to be like, "Oh, since I love this fountain of youth so much," or maybe just since I'm here and have no other options, I am being pressed into signing this document that gives all of my worldly belongings to the confidence man and Adam Thorne.
Okay, and then the second mystery or secondary plot is introduced by Helen, and that's her grandparents. They're being haunted by this blue ring of fire that keeps showing up and creeping closer and closer to their house night after night over the last few weeks. Each night when it appears, it's slightly closer to the house. It doesn't move during the night.
The fact that they say haunted, and when I see fire, haunted is a very weird choice of words, in my opinion. I don't know why I don't agree with it, because I think you can be haunted by memories and things that aren't a ghost. But yeah, it's fire. Yeah, it's blue. It's getting a little closer, but I don't think haunted is what I would pick. I don't know.
I'd be freaking out, though. Honestly, I'm very easily freaked out. It would be, I don't know.
Yes. So they've got their houseman, Morgan. I kept thinking him as a butler, but no, he's the houseman.
The houseman, yes.
It was a term I had not heard, but I also immediately knew what it meant.
So the houseman, not butler, Morgan, has really odd and suspicious. Before this mystery haunting fire, he's usually been a very cheerful man, and now he's very nervous and scared, and he'll disappear for a few hours at a time and come back with a very vague reason that he's been gone. And then with most Nancy Drew's story, it turns out both of these mysteries are actually connected. And both of these plots are the same people who are stealing these old ladies' money, tricking them into legally binding contracts. But they're also doing this blue fire because they've also got this plot to go steal Mrs. Corning's collection of these crystal flowers that her husband has been gifting her for every anniversary.
Yes.
So she's got this huge collection in glass. Everyone knows about it because it was featured in a magazine, which does feel really dangerous to just publish and put out there and be like, there's this rich lady in River Heights, and here is this beautiful lake that she lives on, and here are all the beautiful jewels and how much each one costs.
Literally, they put there was almost like a shopping catalog with the address, basically. They're like, she lives on this lake. There's only so many houses on this lake. It's River Heights. It's a small town. And here is how much each crystal flower costs, because it's like a legitimate $1 million jewel in each flower. Why would you put that in a magazine? Oh my gosh. At some point, Nancy goes, because George and Bess were gone, and then they come back. And Nancy goes, they'll be so surprised to find out I have 2 mysteries going on. And Helen's like, they will not be surprised. Every time we see you, you have multiple mysteries going on. It's great that you mentioned Morgan, because I have a friend named Morgan who watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer, got me into that, and was always saying you can't get too excited if your name's in Buffy because there are just so many characters featured over the course of the 7 seasons. There's always got to be a new person that's doing bad stuff. There's a new person that's the victim. There's going to be a lot of names in it. So Morgan pointed that out to me, and she goes, and mine's the one with the weird talent show with the haunted puppet that eats organs or whatever. Yes. And so she's like, yay, that one. But I got excited because there is a Mrs. Eldridge in this book. Actually, a couple of Mrs. Eldridges because it is a family name. And I know someone named Mrs. Eldridge. And so I was like, oh my gosh.
And
I hope she's excited about
too.
This.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to feature it in my limerick.
Yes.
But no, it very much does feel that way, the same way with Buffy. Within just the Nancy Drew universe, there are so many opportunities to utilize so many different names. So it's kind of like it'll come up at some point.
And yet already we had a book where there were 2 Nancy Drews. So I don't know.
Right?
Cliffhanger.
In this segment, we discuss the ending of the chapter that we liked most, whether it was for a silly or ridiculous reason or sometimes a dramatic reason. So what cliffhanger did you choose this week?
Okay, so you said end of the chapter. There were a couple I liked, but the line that gave me the most suspense and then flipped it around and then flipped it around again, almost like a double, triple take, it was actually in the middle of the chapter.
Oh.
So this is at the very beginning of the book. Nancy is picking, quote, prize larkspurs, unquote, that she just grows in all of her abundant spare time. So she put a bouquet of larkspurs into some local floral competition, which, by the way, she just puts them in a vase and puts the vase just loose in her car and drives with them, which, like, I've never entered a flower competition, but I think that would freak me out, but whatever. And she's driving a convertible, so I would worry about the larkspurs, but whatever.
I would too.
Yeah.
But not Nancy Drew.
No, she's perfect. Of course she won. She obviously won this flower competition. Well, she has to go check and see who won. She has to drive there and find out. They didn't call her to tell her you won first place, whatever.
Now you got to just check back.
Okay, sure. So she's going to pick up her vase. She's going to go home. It's been a couple days. The flowers don't look great anymore, but she got first prize. And then it says, "Hold it, Miss Drew," said a voice nearby. So obviously, A, I heard this in an Ace Attorney voice.
Yes,
and B, I was concerned because this Adam Thorne guy's been following her and her dad around and threatening them, so I thought she was in danger. Then the very next line is, Nancy looked up to see a news photographer pointing a camera at her. There, stand right next to her exhibit.
Oh.
So I, reading this, I'm like, okay, great. I got upset for no reason. She's fine. Everything's good. Then immediately it flips it again. There's a Great Dane springing at her and attacking her, which was set upon her by Adam Thorne and cronies. So yeah, I was in suspense and then it was fine. It immediately was not fine again. I thought it was very well done. It subverted my expectations twice in a single page. Yeah.
When I was reading that part originally, I just assumed that the dog belonged to the photographer. And I was like, why is he bringing his Great Dane on his photography projects? It's so weird.
Unprofessional.
It's not even very well trained. It's jumping on people. But it definitely was suspenseful because dog attack out of nowhere.
Okay, what'd you pick?
Okay, mine is on page 99, which is when Bess, George, and Nancy are hiking from a camp. Okay, they've had a fun night with Ned and the boys at their summer camp. Because I guess
Which is where Ned and the boys work.
Yeah, so you could just show up to people's work whenever and just go hang out with them. It's just
That's true of some jobs, but it does feel like if they're running a camp with children, like if someone
just go to their summer camp.
Teaching,
just blend right in.
No, but Ned and the boys are back. Yay.
Yay.
Quick sidebar about the summer camp also. So Ned and Bert and Dave, Ned goes with Nancy, Bert goes with George, Dave goes with Bess, and they will occasionally go out together. And the boys all go to Emerson College together, right? And so these three boys are apparently substitute camp counselors because somebody dropped out. I guess three people dropped out of being camp counselors.
3 people dropped out.
And
coincidentally.
Yeah, it's probably fine.
Conveniently.
It doesn't come up again, but it's plot convenient, yes. And so the camp manager is like, "Oh, these seem like 3 hardworking men, and you guys could be our substitute camp counselors." They're like, "Great, I have nothing else going on for some reason." Absolutely. And then Nancy brings up this mystery, and immediately the boys go off into the night and help with mystery solving and stop camp counseling. They're like, "We'll get someone to cover us. We'll get a sub for the sub." This is like when you teach elementary school, we had a maternity sub for the maternity sub last year because the maternity sub got pregnant and couldn't finish out the term because she
had to go give birth,
I guess. So this is what's happening here. Like, we got a sub camp counselor and they're like, "Yeah, we don't want to do this. We have a mystery to solve." We don't. You don't. That's Nancy's mystery. That's not related to you. So they had to get a sub for them. I am certain that the boys are not super focused on their camp work because all the girls are there. Nancy goes and does diving. We know that she's a champion diver.
Yes. But this is the different kind of diving. This is like diving off of a diving board instead of like, what do they call it? Skin diving?
Diving for skin. And so the person in charge of the camp, after seeing Nancy dive off their diving board at the summer camp for children, offers her a job as a counselor. This is not good hiring criteria.
That's all you need to know. How to dive. Beautiful swan dive. Hired.
If I had to pick one skill, it'd be like CPR, not swan dive. But okay. So I am worried about that camp. I know it's not coming back, but I do think it's a money laundering operation and they can't keep camp counselors to save their lives. So very confusing. I'm so sorry. That was the longest sidebar.
That's okay. It was very interesting. And definitely very confusing. I am also very concerned about the state of the summer camp, and I think some parents should investigate.
Or even just stops by the camp, because they'll just be like guys hanging out with their dates and doing dives all day. I'm like, what? The children? Think of the children.
Think of the children. So anyway, for my cliffhanger, the girls have dinner at the camp, and they all have to like climb up this ridge, and they have to wind back down on the other side, and there's a classic campfire at the bottom where they're all sitting around, maybe gonna sing some campfire song. And the girls are all wearing parkas, and we will touch upon this later in Fashion Police. We'll come back to those. Nancy, Bess, and George are all wearing these matching parkas, and they're at the back of the line. They've just crested over the ridge, and they're looking over this like beautiful scenic scene, and Bess gets shoved from behind.
Yes.
And begins to roll down the hill, like off of this embankment toward the drop off and the campfire. And that's where it ends.
Yes.
It's not just a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
It's a cliff pusher.
Yes.
I don't know.
It's really dramatic.
It was.
It's like a stop, drop, and roll, but into the fire instead of
gotta
to get
go
it
away
out
from the fire. But yeah, this one was crazy because she was actually in danger. I know a lot of the ones I choose tend to be like red herrings or, oh, it turns out it wasn't actually that dramatic. But this one was legitimately very dangerous.
Yes. Yeah. Bess got pushed down the hill because they were trying to get Nancy, and they are all wearing matching parkas. And then Bess is like, I feel like she's a little hurt, right? Yeah, Bess and Helen and George all get injured during this book because they're around Nancy.
Yes, everyone around Nancy got hurt.
Ship of the Week.
For Ship of the Week, we choose two characters or a character and a characteristic to ship together, meaning we hope that they will be eventually in a relationship. But we usually do not get any text evidence to support this, and many of these are never mentioned ever again. But not always. So, Colleen, who is your ship this week?
We're going to have the same one. It's got to be Ned and Nancy, right?
Yes.
He gets her. They get each other, and they shine in this book. They show up for each other. She visits him at camp, but then he also wants to surprise her, so he and the boys row over from their side of the lake where the camp is to Helen's grandparents' place on the other side of the lake. The girls did not know that the boys were even that close by. They knew they were at a camp. They didn't know they were across the lake, and so they all row over to surprise Nancy and Bess and George. And I think one of the boys that isn't Ned is like, don't worry, Nancy, if you need help with anything on this mystery, we've got your back. It was very cute.
Aww.
But like Ned helps her, and we like when Ned helps her with the mystery, but she also knows what he's up to at college. He's at Emerson College with the other two, and she is like, hey, there's this blue fire. I know you know a lot about chemistry from the classes you've been taking. Can you tell me what's going on with this blue fire? They know each other's skills. They respect each other's goals. She respects him working at a camp. Not really, because she goes and hangs out there all the time. I don't know. I can't decide how I feel about this.
Understandably. It's a confusing situation.
And he takes care of her and the other girls. They send a random camp youth over with the aforementioned and will be mentioned later parkas. It says, 2 small boys appeared at their table with their arms full of parkas. And they go, Ned and Dave and Bert sent you their coats, piped the tallest, because you didn't bring yours, said the other. And then they fled. That's how kids work.
That is how
I did the task. I'm running away. We will not interact further. I love that.
Yes, whoever wrote this definitely knows how children behave.
Yes.
Just to add on, so I also chose Ned and Nancy because they're too perfect together. So Nancy's goal when she gets, not like the very end of the book, but the final part of the mystery, Nancy's goal when she's in Larkspur Lane is to get to the pigeon hatch so that she can release a homing pigeon. And we're going to talk more about how homing pigeons work in Blast from the Past, but homing pigeons always go home. And so these pigeons all got moved from their home earlier in the book because Nancy discovered it. So Nancy asks Ned to go wait at the previous pigeon home. So when she releases
they'll still remember.
Yes, they will. That's where they're going to go. It's almost like a magnet. So she has Ned go there.
Bird magnet.
Yeah, it's a bird magnet. So she takes one of the homing pigeons and she sends a coded message. And she has only got a few seconds to write it down. She's like, it needs to be short, sweet, and to the point. And Ned has to completely understand exactly what he has to do.
So she writes
SP, the letters SP at once. And Nancy's like, yes, Ned will understand this. She lets the pigeon go. She gets caught. Then, very end, Ned shows up. And there's 2 airplanes and helicopters that come. And she's like, oh, my goodness. Ned apparently read it and was like, yes, SP at once, sailplane at once. And Nancy is like, send police at once? And he's like, well, it all worked out. They were perfect. They're perfect. Sailplanes, send police, whichever.
Well, and it worked out great because the sailplanes apparently do not have an engine sound. So the two planes showed up seemingly out of nowhere. The bad guys didn't hear a plane coming. And they're like, oh my gosh.
Yes. No, they were able to sneak up on them so well. It was a good plan.
It did work. But Ned is grinning. He's so excited. He's like, I got you, babe. Sailplanes at once. Obviously, this is what you meant. Not an issue. I got you 2 sailplanes.
No,
she's like, sure.
Yes. They're just so cute.
It's really cute.
If I wasn't 100% sold on Ned before this, I am 100% in. He is just absolutely perfect for her.
Oh my gosh. I marked 2 more lines because I was grinning. I was kicking my feet. Can I? Okay.
Yes.
So Nancy was looking at the haunting blue flames. And then afterwards, she noticed some bits of paper nearby. She has these little bits of paper. She's at a dance with Ned. She says, hey, you've got your chemistry degree you're working on. You are the expert in this. He goes, I'm no expert. She goes, no, like for real. Can you look at this real quick? And he does because he likes her. They're steadies. And it says, Ned's eyes filled with mischief. You don't expect me to look at this, do you? When I could be looking at you?
Aww.
Nancy blushed and laughed. Oh my gosh. He's hard eyes over her. Heart eyes. Like he compliments how she looks. Then he does look at the paper and tell her what he knows about chemistry. Like it's very cute.
They're just so cute. Yeah. He knows her so well. And I know we've talked about it before, but we've said that Nancy needs someone who can keep up with her. And he definitely can.
It is so cute. And then the very last page, they are getting multiple gifts per girl. Nancy gets multiple gifts. The other two just get 1 gift because they're not as important, I guess. And Nancy's like, I don't need anything, but, since you insist, I will take these things. And Ned grins. He goes,
I need them for my Druseum.
For the Druseum, where she just takes everything. Ned grins. He goes, if I were to give Nancy the reward she'd like best, I'd hand her another mystery to solve.
Aww.
He gets her.
Yes.
He can keep up. Like you said, he helps her with her plots. He's like, I wish you wouldn't put yourself in danger. I do want to voice that, but I'm not going to stop you. You have a very strong sense of justice. You want things to be right. And I'll support you as best as I can.
Oh, they're so sweet. I love them. It's amazing. They're adorable. I love them together.
I'm so glad. There was no way we weren't going to agree on the ship of the week this week.
Yes. No, it was just so obvious. Ned and Nancy all the way.
Cooking Corner.
In Cooking Corner, we discuss all the wonderful, confusing, and noteworthy meals or foods that were mentioned in this book. I surprised there were a lot that were kind of brushed over, and they were like, oh, and then they had some lunch. And I'm like, but what was it, though? Despite that, I still have so much written down for Cooking Corner right now.
Yes. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I will go first. I noticed there were a lot of great combos of full balanced meals like steak, potatoes, green beans, and watermelon. Honestly, sounds like the perfect dinner. One thing I did want to bring attention to that I just thought was funny. So it's after Nancy gets knocked out and she comes to. She's still with everybody. She gets knocked out and then left instead of usually, she gets knocked out and kidnapped. They didn't realize they had just actually knocked out Nancy Drew. They just thought she was a random girl. And they're like, haha. So they knock her out. She wakes up. And they're like, oh my gosh, Nancy, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I would just really love some crackers and milk. And everyone's like, oh, yes. Okay, yeah, of course, you're great. And then instead of giving her what she asked for, they give her milk and cake.
Yes.
And I'm like, cake is a little bit of an upgrade, but that is not what she asked for.
They're like, oh my gosh, she's back to normal. She eats crackers and milk. I'm like, that's a little weird, but I'm thinking creme de la Edgar. I'm thinking Aristocats, sure, whatever. And they get her cake, which is nice, but simply not the food she asked for. Also, when I'm feeling, sick, I don't think I've been knocked out by any criminals, just my own body passing out at in inopportune times. But you might want a little simpler food. You might want a little a saltine. And she gets just this rich cake, whatever. But I was wondering, is this somehow a biscuits versus cookies thing? Because, she's not British, but there's just been some things where they said it was an apple pudding and they just meant an apple dessert.
I don't know, maybe, but I don't know. She seems happy with it.
She seems happy with it, but it's simply not what she asked for.
Yes.
I love when they have to stop somewhere on their way to doing stuff, like they're doing errands, and they just say, we really do have to eat. Let's describe it in detail. Let's mention that. So far, my favorite of this has been going into the drugstore for split pea soup, which we have mentioned before. But
classic.
This time, they are running errands. They're in the convertible. They find a small restaurant on a side street, and they order hot sandwiches and milk. And that's all we need to know about that. I don't know.
It. Yeah.
It's great. It seems like it's got some meat in it. It's not cold cuts, but I did accidentally distribute the hot, thinking about parentheses in math. And so I accidentally decided, as I was reading through it, I thought it was hot, parentheses, sandwiches and milk, which distributes to hot sandwiches and hot milk in the middle of the day.
No.
And then I realized I read it wrong. So this has been Milk Math. There won't
Milk
be a
math.
repeat of this segment.
Okay, the other meal that I would like to specifically mention was the meal that Mrs. Eldridge, the elderly lady who was being scammed for her money at the fake sanatorium, and there's definitely other elderly ladies, but she's the only one that has a name that we know of.
Correct.
But they gave her some hot consomme. I think that's how you pronounce it, right?
Sure.
Consomme.
I don't know.
Toast.
Give her
Oh, so she got
toasted rice.
hot consomme, toast, and rice pudding. And I originally read, I was like, oh, look at that French name. I must be kind of fancy.
Like
So I
an
looked up what
escargot.
consomme is. Yeah, it is clear soup that is made from condensed stock. So basically, they just gave her broth.
Awesome.
So broth, toast, and rice pudding. The blandest, most boring food.
That would help if you were like actually recovering from something, but they're not.
No. But it turns out, on top of this terrible food, Mrs. Eldridge reveals to Nancy while helping her escape that all of the food that these ladies are given is drugged to keep them all compliant and like easier to deal with and manage. So that was
Yeah.
definitely the saddest of the meals for multiple reasons.
Yes. Very, very sad. Still better than clear gelatin from the other book or unflavored gelatin or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's always going to
That
gross
was
me
nasty.
out.
I have a fun one and then I have a plot relevant one. Actually, they're both kind of plot relevant. So at the very beginning, chapter 2, they're going inside with the pigeon. Hannah Gruen says, I'm going to make dinner. We're having hot biscuits and chicken, one of your father's favorites. Nancy's like, and mine. And Hannah goes, Mr. Drew likes sweet pickles too. I'll go down to the cellar and get a jar. And then she falls and she doesn't break anything, but it puts Hannah out of commission. Luckily, we don't put her, out of sight, out of mind. We still talk to her. We get her thoughts on the plot and stuff throughout the book. Like Nancy goes out of her way to have dinner with her at one point. But this is plot relevant because this is how we go talk to the bone specialist. We always have a local bone specialist, Dr. Spires, which I wanted him to be named Spurs. So he'd be like the bone Spurs.
Oh,
there.
yes.
They go to the bone specialist. They knocked on his door. They walked into Dr. Spires' office. And that's how we get into talking about how the doctor got kidnapped and taken to Larkspur Lane to treat this elderly woman. Oh, and then we have plot relevant cookies. Did you catch this?
No, I didn't write down any cookies.
Cleared your cookies.
Tell me more.
So speaking of writing children by someone who knows children, a la the earlier youths who just ran away after saying what they needed to say. So we got the neighbor boy, John. He finds out there's a pigeon, says, I want to play with your bird. Here's a lot of facts I know about birds. I like birds. Can I have some cookies? And Nancy gives him the last one in her jar, and she goes, that's all. He goes, all right, fine. Gonna go play with the bird. She goes, we cannot play with the bird. The bird is wounded. We are leaving the bird alone. And also it's a clue that I want to follow back to its house. Because when she calls the pigeon registry earlier or telegraphs them, they write back and say, this is not our bird. Simply, it's an illegal pigeon. And Johnny hears he can't play with the bird and goes, got it, playing with the bird. Heard. And then weirdly, the bird gets loose. And then Hannah's ditzy niece, Effie, we love her.
Yes,
she comes to help out because Hannah's down and out. So the bird gets loose and Effie tries to catch the bird. But yeah, so the cookies are plot relevant because they lead to the homing pigeon getting loose.
For those of you who did not read along with us, who are like, who's Effie? Effie is Hannah's slightly ditzy niece who has to come help out because Hannah is injured and dinner still needs to be made. Effie's mom describes her as like boy crazy. She's all up in her magazines. She is like legit a good cook. And Effie makes them chicken salad, hot rolls, and iced tea. They have like a little TV dinner moment since Hannah can't come downstairs. She's laid up in bed. And Hannah's like, oh my gosh, finally someone's come to tell me the news because I'm so bored up here. And then they decide to have their dinner with Hannah upstairs in front of the TV. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, we never ate dinner in front of the TV, or very rarely. But then that's very different to how things are now.
But did you write down what they were watching?
I did not. Did it say what they were watching?
Yes, I thought it was really entertaining the way they described it. They were watching a television play.
Oh, yes.
And Effie loved it because she loves movie stars and boys, but apparently it didn't have enough love in it because she sniffs in disappointment.
Oh, yes.
I like that little moment, though.
Yes.
With, having the TV dinner because Hannah's feeling a little lonely. Fashion police.
In this segment, we talk about any noteworthy outfits, either plot relevant or not, that are mentioned in the book. And we've already touched on some of those already. So I think it's time for us to finally talk about these parkas. Why?
Yes.
Why parkas? It's summer, isn't it?
I believe so, but I'm wondering about like the lake breeze, or maybe they're higher up in the mountains or something.
I mean, I guess, but they were like out on the beach and it was like hot day. I mean, I guess I've sort of been there where it's hot during the day and you get so cold during the night, but a parka is like, we're going to go hiking in the mountains in the snow. That's at least what I associate parkas with.
Is this a word where it has multiple meanings, or is it always very heavy? I guess I did say they're really puffy.
Yeah. I imagine them being like little marshmallows.
George is like, this is such a great fit, and starts flapping her dangling sleeves around because there's just so much extra clothing, and I love that. This is exactly what I do when I have a way too large piece of clothing. It's very cute. I guess they are such bulky Oh, that's why Bess gets shoved down the hill, because they think it's Nancy, because they all look like little marshmallow people.
Yes.
We mentioned earlier that Ned and Nancy were at a dance, and she wears a simple rose-colored formal and a little flower in her hair, and Ned comments on how hard it is to look away from her. It is so sweet.
So cute. I love it. So they're all wearing their swimsuits and swim coats. And the swim coats I've never heard of. Have you?
Yeah. No. God, no. Well, I didn't even notice them this time until you mentioned them.
Oh, yes. So I, of course, Googled it.
Obviously.
Swim coats are exactly what they sound like. They are a jacket that you wear to the beach over your swimsuit. And so we're going to put a picture of this on Patreon. It's a sewing pattern. That seems to be the most common way I find these things. It's a sewing pattern from the 1960s for making your own swim coat. And so I'm confused as to why we're wearing a coat to the beach, because we clearly have our swim coats with us.
You think they shouldn't be wearing parkas because they have swim coats already?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the boys that drop them off are judgmental. They're like, yeah, you didn't bring your own parkas, so here's Ned and the boys' parkas. You can have
and
theirs.
So, like, I guess all of these boys, assumedly then, are all wearing parkas. Like, are
Why?
Like Nancy, Bess, and George at the end of the line of a trail of marshmallows up and down the mountain?
I like it. And they're all like singing while they walk, right?
Yes, adorable.
I love this.
I have just one more thing for Fashion Police that I want to talk more about in depth, which is Nancy's old lady costume.
Yes, it's so good. She and Bess go undercover into the fake sanatorium. They would recognize Nancy because she's starting to get known by some of these people, especially Adam Thorne, who's been outside her place threatening her. So Nancy dresses up as an old lady, and Bess is a nurse dropping her off. And Bess has to do it because George sprains her ankle. So George can't. And Bess is kind of a scaredy cat, but like with good reason. There is often actual danger. She did almost roll.
She got almost rolled off a cliff
into the flames. So actually she's being very brave here as this fake nurse. I think she wears a nurse's uniform.
Yes.
And she wears some horn-rimmed glasses to like a little bit of disguise her appearance, but mostly like don't pay her attention. Nancy is in disguise as an old lady.
I was disappointed that either Bess or Nancy, they didn't do any old lady makeup.
Yes, I also was disappointed, especially because I have seen a picture of you and Sarah doing a little old lady makeup.
So one of the things that one of my oldest and dearest friends and I love to do is do our faces in old lady makeup. And we've been doing this for many years. And that's because I was in a show my senior year of high school and she was backstage. So every 5-10 years, we recreate this picture we took when we were 18, where I was playing an old lady in a stage play in a murder mystery, actually. Funny enough.
Oh, gosh. Great.
Yes, it was an Agatha Christie farce called Murdered to Death, inspired by The Mousetrap. Very good fun. And so we've recreated this photo many times where I donned the old lady makeup, and Sarah has her headset on because she was one of the stage managers. And then after we take that recreation, Sarah will do her own old lady makeup. And as we've continued to age, it's getting a lot easier to put it on. So when she was like, I'm going to dress as an old lady, I'm like, yes, old lady makeup time. And then she didn't.
And then
I was very disappointed.
They pick up this whole outfit on errand day when they have their hot milk and their hot sandwiches and whatever. Nancy comes back with like a billion packages. George, in amazement, asks, what did you buy? Nancy grins and says, black Oxfords, a black hat with a heavy veil, gray gloves, and a long black coat. Much too big for me. George is immediately like, yes, got it. Nancy, you're going to dress up like an old lady. That is not personally what I would have assumed. Got big coat, that's too big. Yes. Gray gloves, got it. Old woman. But George is on it.
Goth. No, nope. That's an old lady costume if I ever saw one.
Exactly. And we don't have time to test out if this works, but I think she's so recognizable to all the baddies that I don't even know if all the old lady makeup would have worked. So I am glad she added a veil so that you don't really see her face. There's another outfit that I think might come up in Blast from the Past. It's one of Effie's. We'll talk about that later. But she also at one point is wearing a pink bow, and it's really cute because when the pigeon gets let out by the little boy, and then Effie tries to get the pigeon down from the roof of Nancy's house, even though Nancy has said, please don't stand on this very light lawn chair. You are going to fall. And then she falls, and then it startles the pigeon. Great listening all around. So Nancy's like, all right, Effie, get in the car. I'm driving. You're telling me where to turn. We're following this pigeon. Effie's like, this sucks, because the pigeon can go as, the crow flies. We have to go on the roads. And Effie does her best. Nancy implores, please watch the bird, Effie. And Effie assures her, I'm not even blinking both eyes at once. I blink one eye at a time. Like, you're doing your best, sweetie. And I was like, why is she a frog? And then I looked it up, and frogs don't actually do that. And so then I was like, she must be a chameleon. And I looked it up, and chameleons don't blink at all. Do you know what blinks one eye at a time? Like, there's multiple, but do you know what the one that stuck out to me? Hamsters. Huh. So hamsters are fine for that one episode of Doctor Who. Effie
yes,
also
that was the other thing I was going to say.
Yes, it's beautiful. Blink, don't blink, you'll miss it. Blink and the pigeon's gone. No, but Effie's got this pink bow, and she's blinking one at a time, and then with one hand, she's got her hand clamped on this bow so it doesn't fly away. It's actually very cute.
I really enjoyed Effie. I want her to come back.
Yes, I hope she does. I love that Nancy's got a turquoise swimsuit. It sets off her smooth suntan perfectly. Bess looks attractive in a butter yellow one, and George was a trim contrast in sea green. Notably, they did not say that George is attractive.
Oh, nope.
But she's athletic. When they're staying at Helen Corning's family's house, looking at the haunting fire, they're not told that they're going to stay over. Presumably, Nancy has everything she needs in her car. We've talked about this before. She has like burlap, whatever. She always has stuff ready to go. But Mrs. Corning says, there are several pairs of new pajamas in the dresser. Help yourself. Girl,
what?
Why? It is
I
just you and your husband here. Helen's not allowed to stay here because she has a husband. Why are there several pairs? The dresser is stocked with pajamas.
Oh my gosh.
Just in case. I don't know. I have two fashion moments from the same page. We talked a little bit earlier about the bone specialist, and we talked a little bit about Mrs. Eldridge, probably more about her. Those are connected. We see Dr. Spire, the bone guy, in the first place because Hannah Gruen fell down the stairs to get her like sweet pickles, which I'm sorry, pickles, not worth it. I love pickles, and they're not worth that, Hannah. It's the stairs of the home where you live, Hannah. You need to be like a little better. So she goes off screen.
But that's where accidents happen. It's when you're in a place that you're not paying attention, somewhere you've been a million times before. I don't blame her.
That's true. No, that's a good point. She goes off page, and then we hear a thump. And I genuinely thought, we were in chapter 1 or 2, I thought someone has pushed her down the stairs. I thought this is going to be the mystery, as Hannah's been like murdered in Nancy's own home. No, she just fell looking for pickles. So that's why they go and see the bone specialist. And then the kidnapping that Nancy witnessed was, in fact, that bone specialist got called to do some bone work, I guess. And he was told to meet the patient at a certain address. And that's where the car was. And the criminals shoved him in the back of the car, drove him around for an hour to get him lost so he couldn't figure out where they were, and then take him to see Mrs. Eldridge, who I believe was climbing out of the window to try to escape and dislocated her shoulder, which is incredible because she's an old lady. So they get this guy in to check on her, make sure she was going to make it because she has not signed over her earthly belongings to the criminals yet. So they need her to make it. I love that they just made a bunch of turns for an hour so that he thought that Larkspur Lane was farther away. That was a cool strategy. Yeah, so it's very clear to the doctor that Mrs. Eldridge, or his patient, he didn't know who it was yet, that she was like threatened into not talking to him, but was trying to get something across with her eyes.
Yes. And it was not getting across.
No, it was not getting across at all. So at some point, the nurse turns her back, and the mysterious woman slips a bracelet with a family crest on it into the bone doctor's hand. So he's giving that to Nancy, and that is what actually kickstarts the whole mystery of the book.
That is a really important fashion moment.
It is, because it's like a beautiful gold bracelet. And Nancy takes it to the jeweler in town and says, oh my gosh, have any thoughts? Do you recognize this crest? Do you know who it belongs to? How would I go about figuring that out? Next steps. And she notices as the jeweler is holding the bracelet toward the window to get a better look at the coat of arms design. As he does so, Nancy noticed a large woman in a pink butterfly print dress looking through the plate glass window. So she goes, stop holding it toward the window. People are already after me. Can we go to the back to talk about it? But we don't see a lot of printed fashion moments at all. I think the last printed pattern we saw was a teddy bear thing for a child. I think we mostly see like very fancy, elegant things. And this is like a butterfly print dress. And I was like, I would wear that. And then on the same page, other fashion moment is, so the jeweler's like kind of yanking Nancy's chain, not literally, which I thought was funny. She walks in. He's like the third guy to be like, how's it going, Nancy? You and those mysteries. Everyone knows you. So she walks in. He goes, well, Nancy, what could I do for you? Are you interested in a diamond-studded detective badge today? I love that. Very cute.
Oh, I did too. I didn't write that one down for fashion moments, but it is so good.
It's cute. And she's like doing improv with the jeweler now. She goes, I don't know. Do you sell them? He goes, yeah, to the police. So I thought that was a good fashion moment.
I love that. So speaking of the heraldic design on the bracelet, I really enjoy coat of arms. So I looked up the Eldridge one, and this one was not correct. So the real Eldridge family crest, which is English, is a lot more nebulous. When you look it up, there's lots of different versions of it, and not all of them are the same. So we're going to talk about the dexterous size and the sinistrous size. Dexterous meaning right side, and sinistrous is left side.
Right, because my partner's left-handed, and it's very sinister.
Yes, and so is my brother and his wife. They're very sinister and left-handed.
Oh, no.
So suspicious. But anyway, none of those descriptions are correct in the book. They say there's a falcon's head embattled. I was especially frustrated in the coat of arms because in the book, it says it's divided into 4. And that is one thing that is not on any of the variations of the Eldridge family crest that I found. Oh, but you'd like the Eldridge family crest because it's also yellow in all the versions. Though not in the book. The real one is divided in half, not into fourths. I guess I don't expect everyone to look up every family crest, but especially considering this family crest was like the main clue into the mystery, it was a little disappointing to find out that it wasn't accurate. But it is a fictional story. It's okay.
I guess.
I'm not going to take it personally.
Picture perfect.
In Picture Perfect, as per usual, we talk about our favorite pictures that were included in the book because the Nancy Drew books always give us lots of pictures to choose from. All of them, other than the cover, are pen and ink drawing. And, as usual, I am reading mine digitally.
Thank you, Libby.
Yes, we love Libby.
Love
the
Libby.
first picture I want to talk about is when Nancy, Bess, and George have snuck around the Larkspur Lane property where they find this Mrs. Eldridge that they've been looking for.
Okay, they look all day to find Larkspur Lane. They find nothing. They're driving. They're on edge. It's a whole thing. And then they see a sign at the beginning of a lane that says LS Lane. And Nancy's like, let's go investigate that. And Bess goes, so what? That's just some guy whose last name is Lane and has the initials LS. And my reaction is, Bess? Why would that be the case? This is why you're not the lead detective.
Oh, poor Bess. They sneak around in the woods, and then they're like, Mrs. Eldridge. And they peer out of the
really
woods
creepy.
like, hello. She's like, oh my gosh, what is happening? They're like, we're here to help you. She's like, how do you know my name? And the answer
You're making
to
it
this
sound
is,
really haunted.
it was very haunted.
That's fair.
She was very scared. Mrs. Eldridge has had like a lot going on. She is, I feel like, just immediately like, now what?
Now
what?
one more
Now what are they
thing in the
trying to
life
trick
of
me
Mrs.
into
Eldridge.
doing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now there's ghosts. The ghosts are going to make me sign a document.
But she found out that her name is Eldridge from decoding this heraldic symbol of the Eldridge family.
And then
allegedly.
randomly rescuing, which we'll talk about later, a girl who later we find out her last name is Eldridge. And then she goes, wait, let me piece this together as well.
Yes.
Oh.
As always happens to Nancy. And so they talk to Mrs. Eldridge and they tell her how they're going to help her escape and everything. So in the text, Mrs. Eldridge is alone. She's in her wheelchair and she's wheeled around towards the edge of the property towards this electric fence.
I hope her wheelchair's okay for being wheeled across grass and things, because I feel like not all wheelchairs, especially at this time period, are equipped for indoor and outdoor use, and she is currently like in a meadow in the middle of the woods.
Oh, definitely not. After they show themselves, they're like, we're going to go back into the woods so that when somebody inevitably comes looking for you, they don't see us. So then they're talking to her from their hiding spot in the woods. And then, of course, someone is like, Mrs. Eldridge, there you are. Why are you looking at the woods and talking to yourself? But the cover, so not the pen and ink inserts in the book, but the cover of the book is Nancy all the way up against the electric fence, like touching the electric fence, whispering with Mrs. Eldridge very clearly while a man in a suit watches on from the background. And I'm like, first of all, that is not what happened.
At all.
Second of all, they can see you, Nancy. You're supposed to be hiding.
It's not very good hiding. Also, we find out that it's electric because George is like, not a problem. Let's climb right over. And Nancy's like, hello, it's an electric fence. You might not know, but here are 3 key ways that I know. And George is like, oh my gosh, I'm glad we didn't touch it.
Like there she is, like touching it. So I'm looking at this picture. The fence is like completely see-through, and a man is like there. Like, this just isn't what happened.
It was suspicious at one point because Mrs. Eldridge, after Nancy has slunk back into the bushes or whatever, goes, oh, I hope an angel rescues me from the corner of the house, like giving Nancy coordinates. And I just feel like they should have done this before the guy came to check on Mrs. Eldridge.
Yeah, she's like, in the third floor, in the right corner. It would be so nice if some angels came and got me.
The man is then like, hey, what angels are we talking to? Should I search the grounds for these angels? Like, what are you? I am now concerned. But he does not run angrily after Nancy like the picture on the cover would seem to indicate.
Yes. Oh, what an interesting thing to say. Tell me more about these angels.
Yeah, crazy.
So what did you choose for Picture Perfect?
Much like in the mystery at Lilac Inn, where there's this jewelry that's plot relevant, and someone's holding up a ring and necklace, and they're sparkling, and the lines of the sparkling jewelry were so big that I thought the picture was trying to indicate it was radioactive. So that is also true now of the sparkles of this beautiful crystal garden that Helen's grandma has. This illustration is Morgan, the houseman. He's about to steal it. He picks the lock. He starts reaching toward this fragile crystal flower, and then he draws back and whispers forcefully, no, I can't do it, and starts to sob because he's being threatened and is stealing from his employers, even though they've had this 15-year working relationship. He's being threatened by Adam Thorne.
Well, Adam Thorne. Because Morgan, the houseman, is a former convict as well, just like Adam Thorne. And so he's been hiding his identity and turned a new leaf and has been working for the Cornings, but is now being blackmailed by Adam Thorne, who I believe originally helped him forge his references like 15 years ago. So all the things that he knows can take Morgan completely down.
Exactly. But like this picture is just showing the beautiful crystal garden, and the lines are huge. They literally take up the whole page. It is concerning how much this thing is glowing because also it's nighttime. So there shouldn't be like a whole ton of light to reflect or refract.
Yeah, it's concerning.
You talked a little bit already about the very first image with the haunting blue flames. I am so curious how it looks on your ebook because typically that is a less high quality picture just because it's been scanned so many times than my physical copy. But even in my physical copy, to me, it looks like, are you familiar with the Pokemon Dusclops?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. I'm going to post a picture on the Patreon, like for free. This guy, look at him, and now compare him to this picture in the front. Because even in the physical book, which is usually a little more detailed or just easier to see than the ebook, all I saw in this picture, I had no context because it's the first picture of the book before all the words. I just saw this like shambling mound, which I now realize is just like the shadow of a mountain or a hill in the background. And then this glowing ring of fire, I was reading it as like the eye of this mound. So I saw this picture. I had not read any of the text. I saw Helen's grandfather being frightened of the Dusclops Pokemon just shambling toward his house, which I think is valid. I would also be frightened of that.
Same.
I have one more picture that's very fun. It's near the end. It's Nancy hiding under the bed with this half of the veil. She was initially using the whole veil to cover her face. Do you remember why she rips the bottom half of the veil off?
So Nancy wants to rescue Mrs. Eldridge, but she doesn't know how she's going to get into her locked room. And then this fake nurse comes in who's meaner than dirt.
A famously mean object.
Yes. And she's berating Mrs. Eldridge for being stubborn and not signing over all the money to these bad guys. And Nancy is like, oh, since she's lecturing her so thoroughly, I have a little time to do a little something. And she rips off a bit of her veil and jams it in the lock so it won't catch all the way.
Which I think is super clever, especially on the fly. So I was very impressed by that. So then she sneaks back in after the nurse is gone because the lock did not catch. And so in this picture, she's under Mrs. Eldridge's bed and she's only got up to her nose covered with this veil and then her mouth is out. She's under the bed. She looks exactly like a classic thief. She's dressed in black. Her face is covered. She looks very sketchy. It's adorable because we know she's there to do, the opposite of crimes, but she looks like a criminal.
Very sketchy.
Did we talk at all yet about how this is the second book in a row with elder abuse and like specifically elders being captured and held quietly upstairs somewhere? Because that was also the entire plot of The Twisted Candles, which was the last book.
No, I think it's definitely worth mentioning.
Because obviously there's going to be some overlap in plot between things, but that's a very strong overlap. And between that and then there were two different bluish, purplish flowers being plot relevant, both flowers that start with L, both related to coded messages. It's that Phineas and Ferb meme. Oh, if I had a nickel for every time insert very specific thing happened, I would have two nickels, which is not a lot. But it's crazy that it happened twice.
It happened twice. And actually, I've noticed a few of those, I feel like. It's almost like the books have a buddy. I don't know how else to think about it, but like,
Right. Because like In my copy, it is a double feature. I have 9 and 10
Yeah, and
in
maybe
the same
that's
physical text. 5 and
see,
6 were together, Shadow
yes,
Ranch and
5
Red Gate,
and
right?
they felt like they kind of had some similarities
They
as
felt like
well, 5 and
buddies.
6.
You
Yeah.
know what? I am actually more accepting of the similar themes if it's meant to be like 2 companion books go together. And I
Mhm.
gotta find like a Venn diagram for each little book then, actually.
And I guess I just want to look more into the history of Nancy Drew and like the individual writers because I know these were all written by Carolyn Keene.
Of course.
But I know we always joke about that. But in case there are any listeners who don't know, Carolyn Keene is a shared pen name from 1930s to now. And so Mildred Wirt Benson is the first author who wrote under the name Carolyn Keene.
So that's why our running bit at the end of like, oh yeah, thank you, Carolyn Keene, for writing all 612 books, definitely just by her and no one else, because they're all attributed to that name, whether it's the Nancy Drew notebooks or like the little Clue Crew, which is the more recent, younger reader version. Anything over this almost 100-year span of content is all attributed to Carolyn Keene, at least the written works, because that's just the shared pen name.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, I am going to look into this and I want to do a mini episode that's kind of like a deep dive into the history of Nancy Drew and the writers and like how this all came to be.
Oh, I'm definitely interested in that.
And I love a rabbit hole. So
You love a rabbit hole.
I'm very excited about this. So I guess listeners, keep an ear out for that in the near future.
Heck yes. I'm stoked.
Blast from the past.
In this segment, we discuss things that seem more at home in the past than maybe in this present. Whether it's a technology that we don't use anymore, something that doesn't quite hold up to a modern day reading, any of those things and everything in between.
My first one is the jeweler we were talking about. Nancy shows him the coat of arms to try to track down this woman in peril. He's like, oh my gosh, I don't actually know, but can I keep this? And like, I'll figure it out from there. She says that she really wants to keep an eye on it and not like leave it with the jeweler. So she asked the jeweler, could you just make a tracing of it?
Because obviously she would want to have all the information that she could get from like a quick picture on your phone, but we don't have that. So they just do a full tracing real quick, and then we'll both have the information in about 15 minutes. So
Exactly.
the jeweler has it and Nancy. One that I wanted to talk about was we've had telegrams feature into multiple Nancy Drew stories at this point. I guess it didn't occur to me, or I didn't really process how fast they really could be because she gets the telegram response within an hour or two.
Yes.
I feel like of sending it. I guess I just expected it to take longer.
I knew, obviously, it's not as instant as saying, hey, let me just text this guy who knows about pigeons.
Or, hey, let me just Google this real quick.
I also thought it would take a lot longer.
And so I just wanted to comment on that. I was impressed by the speed. One of the main things I want to talk about now for this blast from the past is homing pigeons.
Yes.
So before I get started, all of the information that I know about homing pigeons and just pigeons in general, I got from the Ologies podcast episode about pigeons. It is fascinating, would highly recommend. It will also make you feel very sad about pigeons because nowadays we don't think about pigeons as anything other than like this kind of pest or what do they say, like rats on wings, you know? At one point, they were dear pets to people and had like a purpose within our society. Homing pigeons were, of course, used for communication. That's what we often think about. But they were also used for fertilizer. I mean, not the pigeons themselves, but like having a pigeon coop at your house, the pigeon poop was used as fertilizer for a very long time. We're talking like hundreds of years. And we bred pigeons to be all these things for us, for this communication. They were consumed, they were eaten like a chicken, and for fertilizer.
Yeah, I guess that's just a bird we can have as a pet and then use it for jobs and then also use it for food. I guess that makes sense.
Exactly. During World War I and II, pigeons were still being used frequently. And it's not like you can tell a pigeon where to go and they just know it.
I thought this was happening in this book for a second because Nancy picks up a pigeon and is like, I need you to go to Ned. And I was like, this pigeon doesn't know who Ned is. That's nothing. This bird notably does not understand English, let alone comprehend your complex social circles and who's who within them.
Exactly. Okay, but pigeons go home. That's why they're called homing pigeons. So in order to send a message, you would take your pigeon from one place overland to another. In this book, we see them taking it through the air and kind of throwing it out of the plane. But you have to take the pigeon elsewhere to send a message. And the pigeon will then go to its home. no matter where it is. It's got this amazing sense of direction as to where its home is. So in that case, Ned is waiting at the pigeon's old home, and he's there waiting to receive Nancy's message. So in order to have an effective homing pigeon, you need like a communication network. You have to have your pigeons being brought to these locations for them to fly home with their messages. And so if you and I wanted to use homing pigeons from our 2 cities that we live in, if I were to come visit you, I would need to bring a few pigeons with me so that you could have some of my pigeons.
Send them back to you with notes.
So if you wanted to send a note, it's only one way. So you would attach the like note to the pigeon and release it, and it would fly back to me. And now I have it and put it back in my flock.
You might not know this off the top of your head. We live, like a 90-minute, 2-hour drive from each other. Is that too long for a pigeon? Can they go that far?
I'm pretty sure. Still to this day, they do racing pigeons, which I want to say go from like Florida to New York.
Holy crap.
I would say,
So 2 hours is fine.
2 hours should be easy peasy. I mean, it's as the crow flies, yeah?
Also, I'm assuming they're not going as fast as I am driving to you, which is, 65, 70 miles an hour, but maybe they are. I guess I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, pigeons are apparently like very good pets, and they're very friendly birds, and we as humans just abandoned them.
Because we bred them to do this stuff.
Yes, we bred them not to mind us. That's why they don't mind humans. That's why you can like walk down a street in New York City and there's just like pigeons almost standing in your way. And this is just a fun fact. There's so many different types of pigeons, like a ludicrous number of different types of pigeons. And it's like ridiculous. Some of them are so beautiful and some of them are so weird. I would, like I said, highly recommend the Ologies podcast episode about pigeons because it's great. And also every episode of Ologies is great.
Yes, you were the first person to recommend this podcast to me, but you are not the only by far. And I'm finally listening and I love it. So another blast from the past that goes back to this bracelet and the jeweler. Jeweler's holding it near the window. Butterfly dress ladies staring in. Nancy wants to go to the back room so the criminals don't see her. Nancy leaves the jeweler. Jeweler has the tracing of the bracelet. Nancy has the bracelet. And Nancy immediately gets mugged by this butterfly dress woman. Takes Nancy's bracelet, takes her purse.
sad.
Maybe the bracelet was in the purse. Nancy gets pushed over. Everybody gets pushed over in this book. This book is very pro-shove. So Nancy chases this woman into a department store. Nancy, while chasing this woman down, just looks into several people's dressing rooms to try to find this woman. Fascinating choice. It's just curtains across the dressing rooms, not like a locked door you'd see at, I don't know, Target or whatever. Nancy, don't do this. So Nancy did see a woman changing. I thought either this woman's going to scream at Nancy, valid, or the woman changing is going to end up being the butterfly dress woman changing into a less identifiable print in the way that, you might take off or put on an extreme wig to read as a completely different person to the casual observer. Nope, unrelated. So Nancy confronts the woman. Nancy gets the bracelet back. Woman still has Nancy's purse, which is less relevant to the case, but I guess more relevant to Nancy personally.
I guess.
So to solve this, Nancy picks up a store phone, says, "Operator, this is an emergency. Ring the phone nearest the entrance on Main Street, please." In a second, a voice said, "Silverware," which I would like to pitch as the moral of our episode. It's just silverware, exclamation point. It's very excitedly answering the phone like this. I love it. I'm going to change my voicemail to that. No one will know what's happening. But Nancy gives the silverware department the rundown, like, "Hey, a woman in a pink print dress. She's going to be running towards you. She stole my purse. Can you stop her?" The person goes, "So, funny story. While we were chatting, she for sure ran by us. I did not stop her." So, didn't work, but it was a very good and quick thinking strategy of calling the store phone from another store phone to get that operator to help.
Yeah, that was very interesting. Okay, I have a thing that hasn't aged super well.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, this is what I wrote down as my bet for what your first deep dive would be.
I thought you were going to bet on the homing pigeons, but I already knew a bunch about them.
It was the Oriental Bow and then the pink kimono.
Yes. Okay, so this is Effie, who we like. She is Hannah Gruen's niece. She's a little flighty, but she's young and she's trying her best. She likes these movie stars. She's 17. Her mom says she's not dressed when Nancy arrives. When the mom says not dressed, Effie is clothed. She is just not dressed to go out in public. She's wearing a whole little outfit here, and she is dressed in a Chinese-style pink kimono with high-heeled satin mules. This outfit is like the one that Ling Su wore in the movie The Chinese Wall Mystery, Effie remarked, making an oriental bow.
Her mom's like, "Can you put on normal clothes? Someone's here, bro." That's not what she says, but it is the vibe.
Yes, and then we move on from this, and it never comes up again. And maybe we should have included this in Fashion Police, but honestly, it felt like it fit more in the Blast from the Past.
Yeah, I kind of marked it for both, and I think it fits better here because, as usual, the cultural appropriation is not amazing. It is, I will say, a much quicker moment than the time in Shadow Ranch when they buy all the quote costumes, unquote, of various indigenous roles that they think they'd like to embody for an entire party. So absolutely not great, but it is only 2 paragraphs, and then we move on. I would ideally like it to not be there at all. But it feels like Effie and her 17-year-old brain is trying for cultural appreciation rather than appropriation. It's not my place to say whether she landed on either side of that because that's not my culture. But when the book said specifically Chinese-style pink kimono, my brain pinged with a little, oh, are we sure? Are we sure it's Chinese and not Japanese? Because my mind hears kimono and goes to Japan. So that is what I researched a little bit, and I thought that this might be your first dive. So I'm wondering what you know about that.
I did not go on a deep dive about kimonos, but I do know that kimonos, in my understanding, come from Japan. And fun fact, I also lived there, but I was very little. So I feel like it doesn't count.
It doesn't count. I mean, there is photographic evidence. Yes, they are associated with Japan, but the style of clothing itself is based on Chinese clothing styles that were introduced to Japan during the 300 to 538-ish time period CE. So the kimono specifically is Japanese, but it comes from Chinese clothing styles such as the Hanfu, Hanfu, and some other similarly cut garments. And then by the 1600s-ish, it had kind of evolved into this sort of unisex Japanese cultural identifier called, it's spelled Kosode, the kosode. So it's not necessarily that the writer thought kimono and went, okay, that's from Asia. Let me just pick a country kind of at random. I've decided China. Could be the fact that Japanese kimonos evolved from Chinese clothing styles over time. However, I do think it is the former. I think the writer just didn't know and didn't care to look it up. And that's a much simpler thing to look up than the family crest. This feels like a simple fact. Do you want to talk about your kimonos from when you lived in Japan?
Sure. So I lived in Japan from when I was 6 months old until the week before my 4th birthday. So I don't have a lot of memories of that time period. Generally, most of us don't. But I do have a lot of pictures. Some of the ones I have are pictures of me being at a shrine in Japan, and these 2 Japanese women that my mom had met wanted to dress me, this little blonde white girl, in a kimono.
See, and that feels different from Effie. Effie, I think, is trying to appreciate the culture, but is erring on the side of the problematic, oh, it's so exotic kind of vibe. But you are actively being asked to share in their culture. That is much more of the appreciation versus the appropriation.
Yes, I agree. I would also like to note that in all of these pictures of the entire process, I have a stank face the whole time. I'm 3 years old, and even at 3, I am clearly unsure if this is acceptable. I know for a fact there's probably 24 photos of the entire process of these 2 wonderful Japanese women dressing me in the full
it's not even the final product. It's not even just the final product. There's a whole...
No, in the final product, I am smiling very, very sweetly. But all of the prep photos, I look mildly concerned, to say the least.
I love this. I have another little one. So this is Carson Drew talking, of course, about Nancy. He's like, I just want you to be safe. She's like, no, I got to solve my mystery. Carson says, well, I know you. And you'll never be satisfied until you lick the problem. I was like, what? Do not lick the problem.
No.
I ate this.
No. Yeah, I had to read that 3 times before I realized that they meant lick, like defeat.
Yeah, same. Carson, what are you talking about, man? Is this some kind of lawyer speak? I think I mentioned earlier the con man is referred to by his proper name, a confidence man, which is what con man stands for. And I know this, but then every time it ever comes up, I've apparently forgotten this. And I'm like, oh my God, a confidence man.
Wait, a confidence man? That's what it means?
Yep, because they're confident about what they want to sell you, like a monorail or whatever. Yep. They describe Helen's grandpa as having a bold aristocratic nose, so I obviously looked that up, and it means an aquiline nose. And then I went, what do you mean aristocratic nose? Because that sounds like racism and or eugenics, and it's both. Yay!
Yay. Well, unfortunately, that makes sense.
Yeah. But then they ring for Morgan, the houseman, after they see their blue haunting flames, and they push a button on the table to summon him to bring tea. You know, the tea button that we all have.
I need one of those.
You
right
really
now.
do. You need a tea button. I need a hot chocolate button. Oh, Effie wants to hide in the trunk of the car. After following the pigeon to the bad guy's place, they stop a little early. She's like, I do not want to be seen by the bad guys. Nancy's like, extremely valid. So they stop a little early, let Effie climb in back to hang out in the trunk so it looks like Nancy's driving up on her own. Isn't this before trunks could be opened from the inside? Did Effie just entomb herself?
I guess they don't close it all the way?
What if it gets jostled shut while they're driving on road of the past? Nancy's had a lot of car issues. I don't trust her trunk to stay open just to crack if needed. And then my very last one was very sweet. I thought it was Nancy stretching out on the comfortable bed and tuning in her clock radio to her favorite musical program. And that's not dissimilar from what I do. I just put on a podcast with a sleep timer. But like, it's nice.
It is.
Wound watch.
In this segment, we count up the number of times that Nancy got injured, knocked out, maybe even kidnapped. Not quite a wound, but wounded pride.
I will say everyone else around her got hurt during this book. George twisted her ankle. Helen, at a separate time and location, twisted her ankle. Bess gets pushed down a cliff, almost into a fire. Hannah falls down the stairs. Nancy just gets the one knockout. And it's because people aren't listening to her plan.
Yeah, and she gets fake hurt. She pretends to be hurt when Bess gets pushed over, like, into the fire. Nancy's like, I think they were targeting me. Let's pretend they were successful so they'll stop for a little bit.
Yes.
And she pretends to be unconscious. And they ring the doctor, and he loudly says while he's walking out the door, well, you'd better stay in bed for 2 days, Nancy Drew. You know, like really playing along.
I like your doctor voice. I think it's very good.
Yes,
Nancy
that's what all
pretends
the
to be fully
doctors sound like.
unconscious. All the doctors sound like that?
Yep, all of them.
Oh, good to know.
That's
I
what she
maybe
sounds
have
like.
never been to the doctor, I think, based on this voice.
I don't think those
I've
ones
been
are
to a
real.
lot of charlatans.
Charlotte. That's a good word.
Thank you. Confidence men, if you will. Yeah, Nancy pretends to be fully unconscious and they have to carry her away. She does get knocked out later, like we said, but it's brief. She's with all her people. She immediately wakes up and gets her cake and milk, despite requesting crackers and milk, a different food.
Yes, yes. She gets kidnapped. Well, not kidnapped. She gets captured and thrown into a cistern.
I was going to ask you, do we count that as a kidnap? She's thrown into a cistern with all this goopy gross stuff, and she's like, nasty. Anyway, this sucks, but I'm going to reach down in the goop to get what I need. In the way that she, in one book, I think maybe the first one, didn't want to change a tire and was like, I do not want to do this, but I do have to do this. Here I am doing this.
I got to. I feel that, Nancy. When she's in the cistern, the bad guy, Adam Thorne, taunts her with the ladder and is like, I'll give it back to you. And then he breaks it into pieces and throws it back down into the cistern with her. And she's like,
a jerk move.
Yes. But she's like, thank you. And takes it apart further and finds a big nail. And she's able to like carve out some of the old bricks in this cistern to create some footholds on the inside. And she just climbs up this 8-foot tall cistern. She gets to the top, she moves the stone opening over the cistern, and she's like, gosh, what if it falls in and it hits me? But then she realizes that there's no other option, and it does fall in and hits her in the shoulder. But she doesn't let it knock her back down, which is great. But yeah, I expect that if you get hit with the stone lid that goes on this huge, deep cistern, she's gonna at least have a bruise. She came out of this after being like followed in a car multiple times, attempted pushing down a cliff into a fire. Honestly, she came out pretty solid, all things considered.
Solid. A cistern is like a well, right?
Yeah, it stores water, but this is an unused cistern that is empty.
I'm giving her another tally for knockout, which gives us 6 total. But yeah, I don't think it counts as a kidnap because she's actually the one that broke in there and then they locked her in. So that's kind of her fault. Not really, but it's like a little bit her fault. So we now have 3 kidnaps out of 10 books and 6 knockouts. So on average, she's getting kidnapped or knocked out in 90% of the books. It's not ideal.
Not great, no.
There was a wound I was watching out for and expecting to appear, Chekhov's wound, and it never did. Nancy and Ned are discussing his chemistry knowledge at the dance, and she goes, I found this paper. I think it's related to the blue fire. He goes, absolutely. You burn different chemicals, and you can get different color flames.
This was the fireworks that they were using.
The fireworks. That's the haunting blue circle. It's fireworks.
That was it Dustclops?
Yes, Dustclops. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And so they figure out that the fireworks must have been put on a wooden frame to make it look like it's in a circle shape. And that is hard to do because the lance is very hard to do. And so a lot of the times the nail's going to go into your finger instead. So I was like, absolutely. I'm looking for someone with a bunch of finger injuries that they haven't explained or don't have a good excuse for. Or just honestly, it's someone with a bunch of finger injuries because how common is that? Because also at this time, I fully suspected Morgan was the guy doing it. Because the grandparents were like, yes, every time the fire comes around, he is AWOL. We cannot find him. He's so scared. So he runs away from it. And I'm like, Right. So he's the one setting the fire because he's gone whenever the fire happens, right? Nope. Total red herring. Incredible job, Carolyn Keene. I was on the lookout for people with unexplained finger injuries, and that never came back. I was too detective-y for my own good.
Yeah, sometimes Carolyn Keene gives us some red herrings.
Yes, I love it.
Crash course.
I just have 2 quick things for Crash Course. She did not get into any wrecks in any vehicles, land or sea.
Or air.
Yes, that was also a possibility. She didn't get into any wrecks at any point, which was great. But she does mention on page 4, my car was a good-looking one until that horrid man ran into it last week. And I went back, and that did not happen in the last book. I don't know what she's talking about. She gets a new car later from her dad because it's the past and we could just afford another convertible with no issue. And this helps disguise her movements because people are looking for her old convertible when they're trying to follow her around.
Which actually does not work, and they still follow her.
Yes, they figured it out pretty much immediately, but it was a good try. They try to pretend that she's packing up her old car for a trip, and then they try to slip out under cover of darkness in the new car. So Nancy's like, yeah, can you put this empty suitcase in my old car and act like it's really heavy and be like, yes, can't wait till you leave tomorrow. Similar to the doctor earlier. Really a lot of loud acting
Yes.
in this book. But yeah, Nancy's like, this giant dent in my car is putting a crimp in my style. And I just keep wondering, from what?
Yes, I know. I thought really similarly to you, where I was like, when did this happen? I would have loved to get a little bit of continuity from one book to another.
I guess it could be from the previous book's original run. And then when they rewrote book 9, they just forgot to keep the dent in the car because it wasn't relevant. Or maybe we just needed a reason for Nancy to get a new car. And then did you write anything down about the speedboat incident?
I didn't write it down, but I do remember it.
It didn't end up counting for Crash Course because it wasn't a boat she was in. It needs to be a vehicle Nancy's in. She is, first of all, constantly around boats. I had been on like 2 boats, and it was all touristy stuff, a whale watching tour, and I think the Maid of the Mist for Niagara Falls, maybe like a paddle boat or 2.
Yeah, I've probably been on a few more boats than that, but...
You do have a connection to the military.
Yep, and specifically the Navy.
So I would expect a little more boat time from you.
Yeah, but I mean, not that many. I guess I did crash a kayak once, and I was in a sinking paddle boat a different time. That was with my cousins. My grandparents, they lived on a lake. And so so actually, maybe I have a lot of
much
experience
like
around boats. Yes.
How many Disclopses were outside of your grandparents' house?
Only like 2.
Only like 2. Too many. So what this was all leading up to is there was a kid wandering around near the water when the girls are hanging out. The girls being Nancy, Bess, and George. I think Helen maybe. Can't remember.
No, not Helen.
No, she's with her husband. She's with her man.
She's got to be with Jim.
I
can't hang out with her friends anymore. She's a married woman.
That's my fault. I feel ashamed for forgetting that.
You should.
Yeah. No, that's fair. So there's a speedboat at the lake. This little girl that they do not know falls in. Speedboat is about to hit her. Nancy dives in, grabs this girl, puts her hand over the girl's face to kind of force her down so the speedboat can go over them.
Yes, and just pulls this little girl underwater.
I was like, that girl's never going to swim again, but it is fine because that doesn't ever come back again. We only needed that girl to exist near Nancy because the girl's last name is Eldridge, and that is the clue that ties Nancy to tracking down the elderly Eldridge, or Eldridge for short.
Yes. Nancy is like, I have some questions now that we're here, and I just saved your child.
Exactly. And that's how she gets most of her sleuthing done, is preventing children from vehicular disasters. That is all I have for Crash Course.
Drew's Clues.
So, Drew's Clues is where we kind of talk about any of the things that give us more of a clue of the type of person that Nancy is as a character, as a person, outside of the mystery. And one thing that I noted is that Nancy Drew is a Greek mythology girly.
Yes, in the first sentence.
Yeah, she's picking her larkspur for her flower arranging competition. And she's thinking, if it was 2,000 years ago, I would be praying in the temple of Apollo at Delphi. And Hannah's like, well, what would you be praying for? And she's like, oh, my father's olive groves would bear extra well, and his vines would be loaded with grapes, and his nets heavy with fish every morning.
Hannah thinks this is hilarious. Hannah is like, that is a lawyer.
Yeah. And she's, imagining Carson Drew doing these things.
Olives, grapes, hilarious. Nancy's actively in a field of flowers, wishing she were in a different field of flowers, but a Greek maiden at the temple of Apollo. So exactly this scene now with Olive. Ridiculous. Couldn't be.
That is so funny. And fun fact, I have been to the Temple of Apollo at Delphi.
Incredible. It's so
Yes,
cool.
it's beautiful. I loved it there. It's very, very old, very ancient. But yeah, I also love Greek mythology and Greek history and just absolutely love that Nancy and I have that in common.
It's so cute. You guys must get along so well with your
Me too.
matching little curled out hair and your matching Greek mythology interests. I also like your little voice for her.
Yes,
I
thanks.
loved Nancy taking care of Hannah. She's done this before because I believe
Yes.
Hannah's been on crutches earlier too. But Hannah's like, I've got to make dinner. And Nancy goes, nice try. We are actually going to the doctor. She goes, your dad will be hungry. Nancy says, write him a note. Dad can wait. We're actually going to, fun fact, take care of you. So that's
Before
good.
the dinner. Yeah.
Before the dinner, notably, yes. And
Also, I don't
Nancy-
know. Carson's an adult man. He can probably figure out how to eat by himself.
I also think that, but that's not brought
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I do think that he could probably figure out how to eat by himself, but he doesn't have to because Nancy makes dinner. But Nancy keeps Hannah updated throughout the case. She doesn't trap her up in the attic with all the other old people in these two books. She has her little TV dinner with her we talked about. She keeps her updated on the case, but doesn't tell her the really stressful parts, like when she got attacked by a dog. All she says is, oh, I won first place in the flower competition.
You know, she really does take such good care of Hannah. And I know Hannah's taken
Yes.
such good care of her.
Yes. It's
yeah.
just this house is full of mutual love and respect, I think. We've mentioned it before because obviously she's nominally an employee, but they really are a family. Okay, and then it's going to sound like this is the opposite of taking care of someone, but I think that Nancy also takes care of Effie. I think Effie just has different needs. I think she needs a little bit of guidance from a peer. So Effie loses track of the pigeon. It's not her fault. There's trees in the way while they're driving.
And
This is right
the pigeon is
before-
flying.
The pigeon is flying, right? Is not following the roads. It's right before she blinks with one eye at a time. Fascinating choices. She goes,
Effie.
I'm so sorry. I can't see him. I could cry. Effie gulped. Nancy goes, well, don't.
Yes.
That is a direct quote. Well, don't. Actually, I just need you to focus. It strikes me as a good way of dealing with kids if they're starting to get upset in a situation where we actually need to hold it together for a little bit longer. Yes, Effie is 17. They're about the same age, but Effie's just a little less mature than Nancy. She hasn't maybe grown up as much. So Nancy's like, hey, right now in this minute, we need to focus on this one thing. We'll process later. It's not like it's not okay to cry, but right this second, it would be less safe and effective for us to accomplish what we need.
I wrote that down too. She's very firm with Effie, but not critical. And she lets her ride in the trunk. And then Effie actually gets so scared in the trunk that she lets out a hysterical giggle. This startles the bad guy who is threatening Nancy enough that Nancy can hop back into the car and drive away.
Yeah, he's like, what the heck noise did your car just make? She goes, your business, and I am driving away. And Effie apologizes for making the noise. And Nancy's like, hey, that was actually really helpful because you'll notice I didn't really have an exit strategy. So thank you for the distraction.
Yep, and they do find the pigeon again, and they are successful in tracking it back.
Yes.
I also wrote down, so Nancy wins first place with a flower arranging competition, because of course she does. This skill doesn't necessarily feature in the same way as skin diving did in Lilac Inn. The fact that she is award-winning skin diver is relevant to the plot. This one isn't all that relevant other than she just loves flowers, and even she needs to look up different things about larkspurs. So even though she is apparently an award-winning flower arranger, she doesn't know everything about flowers, and she's still got to look things up.
Yes, she got a book out to look up the different flowers. I'm like, okay, thank you for modeling that we can still learn stuff. We don't have to know every single thing right now. But she did dive again. She did a very impressive dive.
Enough so that she got offered a job about it.
She went to church again.
Did she?
Yep, just real quick. It's page 92, 2 words. It's after church and lunch, blah, 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 the rest of the things she did.
We always have to make sure she has time for church. She gets in a car chase twice. She is being chased both times, not chasing, but she gets herself out of both situations really well. She's noticing that people were tailing her, specifically someone with one headlight dimmer than the other, and she's paying enough attention to the road and the people around her that she notices that this car has appeared again.
Speaking of her car, Marie Kondo would be proud when Nancy gets the new car. She's obviously very excited and grateful to her dad for buying it. And she goes, I loved my old car, Dad. It did a good job for me. But this was just marvelous. So kind of balancing the gratitude for the new and not being like, that old junker. No, this was also very nice.
Well, my question, and I think Marie Kondo would only approve, did Nancy tell the car that? Did she tell the car that I love you and thank you for everything? because
Maybe
that's, I think, the
after
one
they
that does.
do the con where they're packing the pretend full suitcase. Maybe after that, she goes back and says, thank you and thanks for doing one last mystery.
Yes, so she can have a moment with the car, her beautiful
Yeah.
blue convertible.
Nancy also wants to work on her case while she's at Mr. and Mrs. Corning's place, but she puts her plans aside to please the hostess.
Yes.
Even though that is ostensibly why they are there. Weird, but whatever. There's also a moment where Bess is getting kind of down on herself because she doesn't feel like she's very brave compared to George and Nancy. And Nancy goes, I can remember times in some of my cases where you were way ahead of us. And Bess goes, oh yeah, I surprised myself. So we see that Nancy's a really good friend.
Oh, she is. I love that.
Did you notice that the girls stay out after their yacht club dinner with the boys until 1 a.m? Party!
Oh my. Yes.
And then Nancy's still awake anyway because she's still thinking about mysteries.
Of course she is. Very relatable.
Oh, do you remember when Carson said he was going to go up to the Corning's house and solve mysteries with her? And then Carson leaves and doesn't come back until the very end of the book when the sailplanes come. I don't know what that was about. But I like the moment where they're denouementing. He looks at the creepy guy, Adam, and says, I'm proud of my daughter, Thorne. She planned to take you and your accomplices by surprise. Okay. Thank you for telling the bad guy you're proud of your daughter. He doesn't care. He's actively being arrested.
He's just so proud of her.
Yeah, but like Adam
brag to everybody.
He hates Carson. Carson is the one who gathered all the evidence against Adam that sent him to prison. He doesn't care.
He, in fact, opposite of cares.
Correct. I have 2 more. The Cornings are worried about the help. Morgan is acting weird. He's never acted like this. He's very out of it. He's not telling them what's wrong. He's scared. The Cornings are like, I don't know what we're going to do with him. He's always been the help. What are we going to do without him around? We'll have to hire a new houseman. And Nancy says, well, perhaps he needs medical help. He seems out of it. Maybe he's having a tough mental health time. And the Cornings are like, you know what? I didn't actually consider that. You know what? Maybe we should think of him as a person, I suppose. It's great. Nancy's kindness and ability to see the humanity in others is pretty much immediately rubbing off on these upper crust rich people. That's cool.
Hey, you're right, Nancy. Housemen are people too.
And then Hannah's resting right after getting back from the bone doctor. Carson comes home. Nancy makes him dinner because he's an adult man, so he can't do that. She's asking for his help with her mystery. He goes, yeah, I'll go with you tonight. I'll do anything I can to help. And with a twinkle in her eyes, Nancy said, then you can start clearing the table. And so she's going to do the dishes. She gets him to help. He says, you do anything. He goes, you got me. Absolutely. And he helps her very cheerfully. It's so cute.
Yes, it is. It's great. He's great. They're great together. I love it.
Sleuthing skills.
In this segment, we add to your list of what you need to become your own sleuth. What kind of skills should you be working on if you want to follow in the beautiful, high-heeled footsteps of Nancy Drew? I know that we've mentioned this one before. Avian care has come up more than once, maybe even more than twice.
I will be honest, I did not expect it to factor in this much.
Maybe that's why you're not a sleuth yet. You need to work on your avian care. I mean, so do I, to be clear. I'm not trying to call you out on this.
You can call me out on this. I have never cared for a single avian.
Another sleuthing skill that I actually do believe you have, Colleen, but all our other sleuths should be working on is acting. You need to be able to act like an old lady, act like you don't know who Carson Drew is, act like you've been injured, act like a secretary for a bone doctor, act like you've been unconscious. There's a lot of acting that Nancy has to do in this book that was very convincing. So if you want to be a sleuth, you need to work on your acting skills. That is a given.
I think you're also pretty good on this skill. This is good because actors have been getting kind of a bad rap in these books. Actors named gay are always stealing your identity.
Correct.
This one weird trick actors hate. It's you having your identity.
See, yes, but Nancy is an actor too, so we see both sides of the coin. You got to make sure you use your acting powers for good.
Okay.
You also need to be eagle-eyed, notice everything.
Notice because of the avian care?
Oh, the eagle-eyed?
No.
You have to notice everything. Notice that the LS Lane sign hidden in the trees must clearly mean Larkspur Lane, as well as paying attention to the numbers on license plates of cars that you just happen to drive by. You need to notice that someone has a dummy phone and is telling you that they're going to call the police, and you can say, obviously that's not a real phone. I wish you would call the police. They're on my side right now.
Is it ever explained why Adam Thorne and them have a dummy phone?
Criminal reasons.
Okay. You also have to look at notes that explain someone's absence and figure out if they're actually from that person. So Morgan, the houseband, leaves a note that says, "Don't worry about me. I have to be away for a while. Don't call the police. I will explain later." A normal and not suspicious manner. It was slipped
So
under the
normal.
door. It wasn't even handed off by him. And she's been burned before with a telegram that wasn't actually from Carson. But the Cornings positively identified that it's his handwriting that's actually from him. So this is actually the Corning skill.
Mm-hmm. She's right to be suspicious about these things. You also need to be, this is something I need to work on, you have to be a fast runner so that when someone cuts the purse off your shoulder, you can give chase through the department store, up some escalators, down some escalators, and back out into the street to get your purse back.
You also need some basic plane knowledge so you know where the fuel is stored, so you can drain the fuel out of a mystery plane with which you have never interacted.
Yes, she knew immediately where the fuel is stored. My dad is a pilot. My brother is a pilot. I don't know where to look.
She finds the bad guy's plane. This is after she gets out of the well, the cistern. She's like, "I don't know how I'm getting out of this situation. And I sure didn't request any sailplanes because that would be crazy. So I don't have an exit strategy. But so that these guys can't get away, I'm going to drain their fuel. I know where both the tanks are and we'll prop them open so the fuel drains out." Equally as important, probably, maybe, you have to be able to hear a teenager summarize a book they read one time and then guess the ending. My line of work, I've heard many children tell me what they think is the plot of something that they have read one time. It is usually delightful and almost never accurate. Effie's like, "You keep your mind on the case. I'll do the work around the house. I once read a mystery about a circus girl who was shot out of a cannon and disappeared. It took 3 detectives a whole month to find her. Bet you can't guess where." Nancy grinned. "Inside the cannon." "Well, gee, how'd you know? You must have read the story." "No, I didn't." Bewildered, Effie shook her head and walked off. She doesn't ask how Nancy came to the conclusion.
She just takes it as a fact that, like, Nancy is a psychic.
Yep, never goes back to that.
The last sleuthing skill that you need is luck.
Not really a
You
skill.
need to be so lucky that all your cases are actually intertwined and related, because who has time to work on 2 cases, really? You need luck to make sure that the bad guy decides to throw the pieces of the ladder back down into the cistern so that you have some extra tools. You need that luck when you are hiding under the bed and the mean fake nurse comes in and says, "I'm going to investigate the room." And then she just decides not to even look under the bed. So lucky. You just need to level up your luck skill overall.
Accidentally gay. In this segment, we talk about things that the author probably did not intend to ever be read as queer in any fashion, but as we read it from a modern lens, they come off as, well, pretty gay. Whether that's just the actual words gay and queer, meaning, of course, something different nowadays, or just the vibes. Do you have anything? Because it was pretty few and far between on my end.
Yeah, there were some instances of the actual word queer a few different times. Of course, just meaning strange or odd, and usually about the blue fire haunting them.
Dusclops is gay.
You heard it here first.
They describe George as very tomboyish, a very trim athlete, classic features, short haircut, but that's just George. She's always like that. It's great. I really did like, though, how they described husky blonde Bert Eddleton. He was George's special friend. They do not say steadies. They do not say boyfriends. Bert, Dave, and Ned are the guys that the girls hang out with and go on dates with. But when you phrase it as George's special friend, I then wondered, are they beards for each other? Maybe he's like this big old gay himbo and they like hang out and they're like, "Yeah, we'll go on a date. Sure. But like, we'll just hang out because I'm not into you. You're not into me."
I actually love that interpretation. That's what I'm just going to think of for the rest of the series.
I guess this next one is for me a follow-up from our previous Accidentally Gays, because it was so lovely to see Helen again. But it was a different vibe now that Jim's in the picture. And I personally had this sadness, I guess, for Nancy of what used to be and is no longer, because Nancy accidentally calls Helen by her maiden name.
Yes, they were so close.
They were so close. They were very lovely bosom friends. And they, oh no, there's only one bed. They slept in the same bed when they were scared of Helen's last haunted relatives. And they danced together in colonial outfits, and one of them cross-dressed so they could be a little colonial couple, I guess. So Nancy goes, "Helen Corning. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't get used to your being Mrs. Archer." And it says she says this with a grin, but it might be a little sad.
Yes. It's a sad grin, hiding her true feelings underneath it.
Miscellaneous mysteries.
In Miscellaneous Mysteries, we have any last thoughts that didn't quite fit into any other segments or lingering questions that never got answered. My first one is Nancy gets this new convertible, and it never tells us what color it is.
Ooh.
What color is it? I'm hoping that in the next book, we'll hopefully get the answer to that question. But there have been many times I have talked about something in Miscellaneous Mysteries, and I'm like, I hope they tell us in the next book, and they never do. So I am very curious. And I feel like we won't be able to get through the rest of the series without knowing what color her car is.
Surely not.
But I am definitely going to miss the blue convertible.
I mean, she got the new car in the dark. How are we supposed to know what color it is?
True. Maybe she doesn't know.
Maybe she doesn't know. My main mystery, I've mentioned a little, what is going on with the hiring practices at this camp? I do not understand what's happening. Another mystery I have is how many more elderly relatives with a haunting experience will Helen present to us? So far, this is 4. 2 different books, 4 separate elderly relatives experiencing a haunting upon their home.
Poor Corning family.
I don't know what to do with this. Helen have different relatives. I don't know.
Well, to be fair, all of them assume that it's a haunting, and it isn't. They're not actually being haunted.
Hey.
And at least this time, unlike the last time, Helen was 100% like, okay, I know this is probably not really a haunting. So please, can you go help my grandparents and figure this out?
I like that you said 100% and then immediately moved on to probably.
I know.
Exactly.
100% probably. That is
100%
my vibe.
probably. Yeah, that's the amount I can give. I can give 100%. Probably. What was Nancy going to put in the pigeon's capsule? Was she going to put the same message back in? Because I think she should put a fake one in. She mentioned she was going to put the message back in before releasing the bird, but because the neighbor boy let the bird out, she didn't have time.
Yeah, I feel like she probably would have put the original one back in so they wouldn't have been suspicious that someone else read it. But maybe not. She could have been like, found your bird, stole your message.
It's like got your nose, but for birds. Nancy is learning for the very first time from the bone specialist about this elderly patient. At the beginning of the book, she's trying to get across a secret signal. She's very clearly in distress. She slipped a bracelet into his hand. Nancy only says, how dainty about the bracelet. Girl, there's a prisoner, but okay.
Yeah, like, Nancy, read the room.
I always have so many unanswered mysteries. Why are there so many aptonyms in this town? There's that's when your name matches your profession. There's Butler and Stone, the jeweler. You can't be named Stone and be a jeweler.
Or do you have to be a jeweler?
Yeah, I did want or geologist. I did want the bone doctor to be named Spurs instead of Spires.
That would have been
Butler
so
and
good.
Stone. Why did Nancy carry a flower arrangement just loose in her car? She put it in a beautiful vase. She arranged it the way she wanted. Drove off in a convertible. Didn't buckle the vase in. Didn't do nothing. Another miscellaneous moment, I guess. The girls are looking for Larkspur Lane. They meet a random woman who says, there's no Bluebell house. And her older mother goes, there is a Bluebell house. Go down this road. That's the house you're looking for. The first woman who says that there's no house, I thought she was one of the bad guys trying to throw them off the scent. No, she just doesn't know about it. But her mom does. First lady goes, I've never heard you mention that place before, mother. And the old lady's black eyes snapped. I know lots I don't tell. It's a great moment.
Such a good moment.
Gumshoe Game Show.
In this segment, Colleen asks me questions that are only barely tangentially related to the topic or features of this book, and I struggle to figure out the answers, and I never know what they will ask me.
Wahoo! Correct.
Wahoo!
I was very excited about this. Before Nancy got her little souvenirs at the end, I flagged the imaginary diamond detective badge that they joshed about earlier as a possible prize, in case Nancy doesn't just keep a random item from the case. But she does. She gets 2. So, which would you prefer?
Although it is inaccurate, I want the Eldridge family crest bracelet.
Excellent. Yes, she gets to keep this. It's not her family crest, but whatever. And then Helen's grandparents also say they're going to order French crystal earrings in the form of tiny larkspurs for all the girls. So Bess and George get something too. And maybe Helen. Maybe not. Maybe Helen's with her man. I don't know. Okay, you are competing for the family crest bracelet. This time, the game show is entitled Delphinium Deluge.
Ooh, all right.
What do you know about delphiniums? First of all, how are delphiniums related to the story?
So I think delphinium is the Latin name for larkspur, but no. Is it the genus?
You were very close. So delphinium and larkspur are typically, in layman's terms, used interchangeably, and depending on who you talk to, they are either 2 different genuses, or delphinium and larkspur are both interchangeably used for delphinium genus and the consolida genus, because these genuses both sometimes share the common name of larkspur. It's extremely confusing. I got so many conflicting reports from like a billion different seed and flower websites on this. So for the purposes of this game, we're just going to say all the things we think of as larkspur, whether that is the Consolida genus or the Delphinium genus. They all count as larkspurs / delphiniums.
Okay. Well, that's confusing. Thanks, English language.
Yes. Oh, also one of them is an annual and one is a perennial. So
Great.
yes. All right. In the deluge, there are 5 questions. They are multiple choice.
Oh, boy.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Number 1. The delphinium is one of 2 birth flowers for July, similar to birthstones. What is the other one? A. The water lily, because both represent vibrant energy and serene beauty. B. The dahlia, because both represent finding inner strength and working toward positive change. C. The daffodil, because both start with D. Or D. The foxglove, because both are named after animals associated with the Leo constellation, the Nemean lion.
So I feel like C is not correct. Not a good enough reason. I feel like I'm going between A and D. I'm going to say A, the water lilies.
It is A. Very good. Yes. The delphinium is named for dolphins, so I like that it goes with water lilies. That's not why. I just think it's cute.
Aw, yeah, that's sweet.
Number 2. White larkspur and delphinium are extremely popular in wedding arrangements as a tall white garden flower to complement peonies and roses and such. Which of these is not a real variety of white candle larkspur? White candle being the ones that grow tall and white. Which is not real? Is it A, the Jill Curly?
Great.
Is it B, the Constance Rivet?
Ooh, better.
Is it C, the Moonbeam?
Okay.
Or D, the Emily Hawkins?
Oh.
I'm so sorry. It's very unfair, actually.
Okay. I'm just going to take a random guess because I have no idea.
That's probably best.
I'm trying to get the one that's not real, right?
Which one is not specifically a real variety of white candle larkspur?
Oh, gosh. I'm going to say D is not right.
Very good. That is correct.
Yes, that was completely random.
It was a very good random guess. So the first 3, including the Moonbeam, are all white with white bees or eyes. Both things I don't want larkspurs to have. I think it's just like the part of the middle.
Yes.
And the Emily Hawkins is actually a lilac variety with brown bees.
Oh.
So they're actually all real flowers. Just going through the list, like, why do these flowers all have first and last names?
I just thought it was like a fake one that you just made up.
No, it's just a slightly different type of delphinium. Number 3. In old-timey medicines, which of these was delphinium not used for? Sorry, I have 2 of the find the one that's not in a row.
That's all good.
A. Curing asthma or poor breathing. B. Curing colic. C. Curing poor appetite. Or D. Protecting from scorpion stings via amulet.
I am going to say C because I remember reading that they're toxic.
So the answer is A. It was not used to cure poor breathing. But in a larger way, you're correct because all of them are toxic. All members of the delphinium family are toxic to both humans and livestock. Do not use them for any of these allegedly curative properties. Do not use them to cure poor breathing, poor appetite, colic, scorpion stings. Apparently, they also cure snake bites. No, they don't. You can also wear them in an amulet to ward off the snakes, like a prophylactic against scorpions. They see it or smell it in the amulet, and they won't sting you. This is not true. It's toxic, and it doesn't do any of these things.
I didn't know that.
And you shouldn't, because it's not real. Like, as I was looking this up, there was so many asterisks of like, that's what they said, but it's not true. They said it for this, but it's toxic. Please, for the love of God, do not consume these and think it will do something good for your health. Okay, you're doing great. You've got 2 right. You have 2 more to go.
Okay.
Number 4. Who wrote the 1924 poem titled The Dormouse and the Doctor, which starts out, there once was a dormouse who lived in a bed of delphiniums blue and geraniums red, and all the day long he'd a wonderful view of geraniums red and delphiniums blue. It's real cute. Keeps going at that kind of like rhyme scheme.
Okay. Yeah.
So who is the author of that? Or who was the writer of that? Is it A. A. Milne, B. E.B. White, C. E.E. Cummings, or D. J.R.R. Tolkien? I had As you could probably tell, fun writing this question and also reading the poem because it's adorable.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I really hope it's not Tolkien because I'm going to be so embarrassed if it is.
Okay, I'm going to quote you on that. I really hope it's not Tolkien, said Meghan, implying she hates his writing.
No, that's not what I said. I would never. I just don't think Tolkien wrote this.
Okay. And again, it was written in 1924. I don't know if that helps. It would not help me, but you're better at history than me. They all have initials as names, though, because I'm a mean question writer.
I noticed. I'm trying to remember which one A.A. Milne is. Is he Winnie the Pooh?
He's Winnie the Pooh, yes. He also has written at least one play, because I was recently in a modern-day Sapphic reinterpretation of one of his plays.
And then E.B. White is like
Charlotte's
for
Web.
a little... What? Oh,
Charlotte's Web.
Charlotte's Web.
Yes, and like Stuart Little, Trumpet of the Swan, that kind of thing. And then E.E. Cummings does a lot of poetry with like parentheses and weird things, and he always writes his own name in all lowercase.
Yes, I know that one.
I read a poem from him when I was reading at a wedding once. It was, I carry your heart with me, I carry it in my heart. Cried the whole time. It was great.
Oh, okay. This one's hard. What's the title of the
The
poem?
Dormouse and the Doctor.
Oh my goodness.
Which could also be a BBC episode.
Oh, my favorite show. Actually, that's not true. It was my favorite show at one point.
Yeah.
I want to say A.A. Milne, but I'm worried that's wrong.
I would say go with your gut.
Okay. I'm going to say A.A. Milne.
I think that's a good guess. Yes. You're correct.
Yay!
And Winnie the Pooh's also got some little poetry in it.
Oh,
and I didn't want to, and this is a cool detail about the poem, but I didn't want to say before you would guess because I thought I was going to throw you off because there was a lot of parentheticals in this poem. It's delphiniums, parentheses blue, and geraniums, parentheses red. So I was like, that's going to throw you off. But that is why I initially put E.E. Cummings in there. And then I was like, ooh, I can make all of them initials. I am a good person.
Yes. I would have then assumed it was E.E. Cummings.
Exactly.
I couldn't remember the time frame that A.A. Milne was writing. But another fun fact is I have been to the 100-acre woods when I lived in England.
Everywhere.
I know. I'm very lucky and very spoiled.
No, I'm just giving you crap. I love this.
I know. Oh, I know this. But the 100-acre woods, they are not 100 acres.
Why would you call it that?
I know. And so many people have played poo sticks, which are you familiar with poo sticks?
I'm familiar with poo sticks. You throw a stick in the water and so does your friend, and you watch them float under the bridge and see who gets there first.
Exactly.
Who gets there first.
So there's Pooh Sticks Bridge, and so many people have played Pooh Sticks that you can't play it anymore. Or at least you definitely couldn't in the year 2005 when I went.
Did they make a dam by accident?
Oh, 100%, yes.
Incredible. Final question.
Okay.
Which I believe you've already won. You've got the majority right, but this is the final question. According to Greek mythology, which A word is associated with delphiniums? A, Ajax, the Trojan war hero, from whose spilled blood the delphinium originated. B, alas, because the Greek word for alas, sometimes transliterated as either O-U-A-I or A-I, but it's pronounced oo-I. Anyway, because that Greek word for alas is inscribed on the petals of the delphinium. And actually, that word is where the English word woe comes from. I learned that while I was looking up how to pronounce these Greek words.
Oh.
Yes. Is it C?
And we're talking whoa, not like, whoa, back up.
Yeah, like whoa, like we're sad. Yes, because this is alas,
woe
alas,
is me.
we're sad. Yeah, not like you're talking to a horse.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, so is it Ajax?
Okay,
is it alas?
Yes.
Is it
Ajax? B, alas.
C, IS or Iax, which is, despite having an X sound, it is spelled A-I-A-S. Is that, this one's kind of a hard one to do auditorily, sorry, but is it Ias or Iax, the Trojan war hero, from whose spilled blood the delphinium originated? You'll note that's similar to option A about Ajax. Or is it D, Apollo, because delphiniums are supposedly named after Apollo's temple at Delphi, and the flowers were placed at altars in Apollo's temples. This one's a very hard one to do out loud. I apologize.
That's okay. I want to say D, but it's confusing me that A and C are so similar because in my experience with test taking, usually means that one of those is correct and one of those is wrong. But would you give me two wrong ones because you knew I would think that?
Hard to say, isn't it?
Or am I just thinking about Apollo because Nancy was talking about Apollo? I'm going to go with Apollo.
That was a good guess.
No.
But they're all right. All of them are correct, yeah.
Aw.
So I'm mean today.
You are so
Ajax,
mean today.
yes, Ajax and Aas or Ajax, that's the same person. So it's me being mean, but I'm also being very nice because you were always going to get this question right. when you
That's
think about it.
true. That's
So
true.
2 different spellings of the same dude. And then when his blood was spilled, that's apparently where the delphinium grew. And on the petals, we see the Greek letters spelling out alas because it's so sad that he died. And then we pick those and we put those in Apollo's temples. It's all of them.
Wow.
I was looking up the Greek connection to delphiniums because, Greek mythology girly is Nancy is one of those. And I was like, why does everyone's name start with A? It's very confusing.
Yes.
So then it became a whole question. You did it. Yay.
Yay!
You won the bracelet for your Drusium. I'm going to have fun cross-stitching a golden bracelet. Okay, question. I don't know if I'm going to get the coat of arms right. So what if the Eldritch bracelet is an Eldritch with his he-ch, horror, an Eldritch horror of a bracelet? Can I make the coat of arms just Cthulhu?
Yes.
Okay, I know I'm saying it wrong. Yes, okay, great. Eldritch horror bracelet, yay.
Yeah, Eldritch horror bracelet. Eldritch. It's so close. And I would love little chibi Cthulhu.
It'd be so cute.
I'm going to keep calling him Cthulhu. Or
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I'm not going to say it the right guttural way anyway, so.
No, and nor am I. And so.
And no one wants me to.
No, we don't.
All right. Oh, we don't.
No.
I've pulled the room and we don't. All right. Now that we've completed a lovely little chunk of the first 10 classic books, we're excited to start branching out into the other aspects of the Nancy Drew universe. So our next few episodes will be a little different than usual, and I'm really excited about it. We are planning for episode 11 to be about Secrets Can Kill, the first Nancy Drew PC game.
Yay!
Yes, I know. And then you have something planned for episode 12, right?
Yes, I do. So for episode 12, I would like to do a little mini episode of the history of the Nancy Drew universe and how we got to where we are now with over 600 different books and looking into the writers and illustrators that have helped develop Nancy Drew along the way.
I am really, really looking forward to that. You've already started researching, I can tell, because I've got a couple of little sneak peeks as we recorded this that I'm going to cut out just so it's new to the listeners. But I just got 1 or 2 facts. I was like, this is crazy. I need to know more. And she was like, you can't. You'll find out next week or whatever. So I'm very excited. You are very good at deep dives, and I very much enjoy your history/English teacher presentations, which this is kind of both. So after our History of Nancy Drew episode, we are going to start a much different read and read the first Nancy Drew notebook, which is like when she's in 3rd grade. This is the Slumber Party Secret.
I am so excited about that. And I think we'll have to maybe swap some segments around a little bit.
Yes, hopefully she won't be driving. I don't think we'll need Accidentally Gay or Ship of the Week. That's more mature, but I would love to add maybe like some kind of pedagogical segment, the education station, but like with a better name. Because the last time I read these books, I was a child. I had no education experience like from the teacher side of it. So I'm curious to think, because sometimes you'll read a book to children and be like, why did the teacher take them on 3 field trips this week? That's insane. So I want to kind of look and see what
Clearly
Nancy's
they're
teacher is
not a
up to.
teacher.
Exactly. I am super excited to see how these different types of episodes like sound. And we want to hear from you about what you think of the different formats, the different content. So we've said our website before. We'll say it again. Go to MeAndYouAndNancyDrew.com. We'll have a place to submit your feedback or your questions. Or, of course, you can leave a comment on Spotify or a review on your podcatcher of choice.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Me and You and Nancy Drew and learning all about avian care with us.
This podcast is lovingly dedicated to the memory of my wonderful mother, Shar, the woman who got me hooked on sassy female detective stories. I also want to thank my brother, Ben, for creating most of our sound and music cues for this podcast. Thanks, Ben.
You can check out our website, MeAndYouAndNancyDrew.com, for show transcripts, our episode calendar, if you'd like to read along with us, and links to our Patreon, where we will post any images that we described during the podcast. Those will be visible to anyone without a paywall, but if you would like to become a patron, we have some very fun perks, including outtakes, discussions that got cut for time, bloopers, stickers designed by Colleen based on a random line from the book or episode, and cross-stitch patterns to create your own Drewsium at home along with us, and more.
Thank you, Megan, for editing this podcast and creating a few additional sound cues.
Thank you, Colleen, for also editing the podcast and transcribing the episodes and designing our website and Patreon perks.
We also want to say thank you to our partners for the support, love, and microphones. We want to say thank you to libraries everywhere for giving access to books about Nancy Drew, Greek mythology, seaplanes, pigeons, and so much more, plus media of all kinds to people everywhere for free.
And finally, thank you, of course, to the one and only Carolyn Keene for independently writing over 600 Nancy Drew novels from 1930 to present day. And don't forget the moral of this episode, coming to us as a quote from Carson Drew.
Nancy, you are more important to me than all the mysterious old ladies in this world.
Silverware!